I'm glad we changed tonight's topic. I was going through earlier doing my research, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. The topic we had picked is decent enough, I suppose, but meh. I'm 36 years old. It doesn't really affect me. It may affect my children, though, but we'll push it out to another day.
Sure.
Definitely anticipating next week's now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But we already know how these topics roll, so let's cut the chit-chat. I'm going to go ahead and get it, well, actually out of the way. Last week, I actually meant to pull that up on Facebook, but last week I said that there was a level in Super Mario Galaxy that was a callback to the Super Mario 64 level. Well, actually, that's Super Mario Galaxy 2, and it's called Throwback Galaxy. It's actually very, very cool how it's done. From the visuals to the music, I genuinely got a big cheer, just a big fucking bundle of awesome joy when I came across that level. It's probably, I find it hard in my life to pick which of those two that I like more. I've 100%ed both of them. Not saying that for bragging, just that I've been through every piece of content in both of the galaxies, and I do not like the motion control shit they threw in Galaxy 2, but that Galaxy alone kind of put it back up there. I enjoy them both. But that's our well, actually, unless you had one.
No. Oh, wait, you know what? I sorted it, just so you don't feel bad and you're the only one.
Mm-hmm.
I had mentioned, when I was talking about watching Luke Cage Season 1, I think at one point I said there were like 20 episodes, but there were only 13.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it mixed up with a different series.
Yep. We would offer our apologies, but I mean, there's so many perfect episodes we've already given our audience. I think we're just doing our due diligence by making sure that the information is correct. So it's more like you're welcome, but that's all the corrections we got for this week. If we've missed some, please let us know, because I'm sure there's more than that. Any quick news before we roll into weeks?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but I'm starting to see E3 articles. That's coming up next month.
Yep. And for those curious, we will have an E3 episode or two, depending on how much shit there is.
Yeah, there's so many different things now.
Yeah.
I don't really want to talk about it because I don't know how much validity it has. But there's apparently some sort of leak prior to E3 from a Canadian Walmart website that put up all their stuff early and then was brought down. Not sure if it's true or not. I've seen the screenshot. It could be. Maybe not. Who knows?
So what is it?
Well, it's basically, the like the big pre-order screen when you go to one of those shopping websites like that. And it was just like 50 games listed.
Oh, wow.
Some of them DLC. There's like a Destiny DLC on there, which I'll talk about. Destiny's DLC just came out this week, which I completely forgot about, but it came out Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And on going back to the leak, there was like the next Gears of War. There was what was it? There's pretty much a sequel for every game series out there, the new Assassin's Creed, etc.
We'll save the rest for the E3.
Yeah.
I love surprises.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't really just want to throw it that it's out there, but
yeah. There's a lot of meta detective work that people can do, especially the more like the more popular and well paid like YouTube channels. There's like just fucking scouring for SKU data and shit like that, looking at barcodes and whatnot. I like my surprises as they come. I would love to see something from. I mean, I have a list of things that I'd like to see. I haven't wrote it down, but I would love to see some more on the next Metroid Prime that's supposed to be coming out this year.
And that was on the screenshot.
Yeah. I'd like to see something more than the 8-second trailer we got for whatever the fuck From Software is doing. I love anything. I'll take a minute trailer or just a fucking title or something.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. There's there's Demon Souls 2 and Bloodborne 2 that everybody wants, and there's no telling what this is. Supposedly it's a new IP. Don't know. We'll find out. Hopefully we'll find out something at E3.
Yeah.
But yeah, there of course there are plans. We're going to do an episode. It just depends on where E3 rolls in the week. Like if E3 rolls out, say, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, by Thursday when we record, we'll definitely have all the material. But if it's like a Wednesday and a Thursday, it's going to be split up twice. We may push it a week. We'll see.
Unless it's a blockbuster and we just need 2 episodes to cover everything.
Yeah, that too. Could be. Go ahead.
The only other thing news related, also related to Destiny 2 actually, and I knew about this before the DLC, the Destiny 2's in the Humble Bundle this month.
Oh, wow.
It's there have been AAA games in the past in it.
Yeah.
But it's pretty strange to see Destiny 2 in there. I think that's a sign of how not well the game is going.
Yeah.
That they're trying to get people in on the PC version, and because it doesn't come with DLC. Mm-hmm. So if they get enough people hooked and they buy DLC, it kind of, makes up for losing out on some money with the bundle.
Yeah, it blew my mind last month when PlayStation Plus owners could get fucking the new Ratchet and Clank and Bloodborne at the same go. I was like, Jesus. Wow, what a fucking... Here's free console seller right here, folks. Have it. It's yours.
Yeah.
Troy, I guess. I can't think of anything news specific I had in mind. Usually by the time that we record, I've already listened to like 4 different podcasts, and I've heard some things here and there. I kind of don't want to pull topics from everybody else. I feel like I'm regurgitating their shit. If something came around that really caught my ear, I'd pass it along and just say my thoughts on it. But unfortunately, aside from the E3 hype that's slowly building, I didn't really hear much. There was some small thing about Nintendo being sued for their fucking Switch possibly having a copyright issue, and that lawsuit got pulled back. They were like, yeah, we don't want to do that. But, yeah, nothing big newsworthy. All right, so last week, I think I started off. I'll let you start off this week. And, yeah, we're just going to go through your shit, and then we'll both talk our D&D, and I'll end it off with mine, and we're going to get into today's topic. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the end of time. I'm Michael.
I'm Chris.
It's been a week, Chris, haven't it?
It has. As my week went on, I was thinking, man, I'm not going to have a whole lot to talk about because I've had so much going on. Like I mentioned last week, I've been fairly busy with work. And I actually started a side thing that's going to take me 2 or 3 weeks to complete. So that's taking up, my after work time. Mm-hmm. But I have a decent list, I think. Let's see. I'll talk about games first, because that's not as long. I spent like a whopping 30 minutes the other night trying out Galaxy of Pen and Paper, which I haven't finished, the other game, which I already went blank on. It's like Knights of Pen and Paper 2. Something like that. Wow, that's been like 3 weeks since I played it. Yeah, Knights of Pen and Paper 2. But Galaxy Pen and Paper is the next one in that series of games by that developer. And like I said, I spent only like 30 minutes on it. It's a combination of I'm kind of burned out on that type of game right now.
Yeah.
Because I went through those 2 back to back, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not done with 2, but I'm right there, I think. Or I beat it, but I have 100% of whatever, something like that, It's an okay game. There's a lot of different mechanics. This one is a space-based game, so instead of just walking around the map, you now have a galaxy map, so to speak, where you have these planets and ships and asteroids and stuff you can go to. And then on the planets, you actually have a planet map too, which isn't nowhere near as big as the map from the other games, are, per planet, which makes sense. But they still have a respectable amount of locations. There's something about it that just felt weird when I started playing. Because normally in a RPG type game, you follow the missions. You can typically progress them in this type of game without ever doing anything on the side. Or you'll have clear side stuff on the way that levels you. Mm-hmm. This one I felt like I had to go out of my way and create battles to fight to get a little bit more experience because this boss just murdered me.
Yeah.
I beat that boss and then I moved on, and that's about the time I quit. But one mechanic I really like is they're actually ship-to-ship battles. It's not complicated. You basically just take turn-based ship combat. And it's based on like a action point system. So you can choose to heal or shoot, and every action you take increases the cost of the next action. And your points carry over up to a certain amount. And at the beginning of each of your turns, you roll a die to get a random amount of points back. So you have to kind of either hope you get good rolls or save your points to make your, to be effective in combat.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that system. But like I said, I'm just kind of burnt out on that type of game right now, so...
And that'll happen, man.
Yeah.
If you play, man, if I play like 3 RPGs, and they don't even have to be hundreds of hours of RPGs. If I play like 3 RPGs back to back, I may roll into a fourth, and I'm like, I'm kind of good for a while. I need another genre. Like, I'm probably passing up a 10 out of 10 game, but I'll come back to you. I'm good.
So I only got one night with this, but I ended up finally starting, because I went on my Xbox and I started installing something. Don't even remember what it was now. Not relevant. Nice. I didn't touch it. But I was like, I already have this installed. I haven't touched it. I need to. And that game is Lost Odyssey.
Oh, wow. A throwback.
Yeah.
Nice. Because
it was available. It's the 360 backwards compatible thing I got with Games of Gold at one point.
So you've already played this?
No,
I mean, since you've right now you've played it.
Oh yeah, I got one night's worth of playing it.
Okay. I need to know right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
How about that intro?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, fucking great.
It's very interesting because it leaves you very curious about what is going on, because they just throw you straight into it.
Mm-hmm.
And
literally, the cutscene rolls into RPG menu pops up.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I think I have roughly 3 hours or so of play.
Mm-hmm.
But I've encountered now, I think, 3 dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And man, those are good.
Yes, they are.
They are very well written.
Yes, and they get better and more and numerous.
Yeah.
There are 2 good traits about this game that I've only played through the game once. I think I did everything that I could do or wanted to do, but I remember there being 2 big takeaways from this game. One, just as you're talking about, the dreams, for those that don't know in the audience that haven't played this game, they're basically text memoirs of your main character. I'm not going to tell you why they're there, because that may spoil something in the beginning of the game, but it's basically diaries and journals and memories of stuff that's happened in his life. And they are so well written, like so detailed. And the more you get of them, the more you get of his life is so fleshed out and so well done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to say why you get to read a shit ton about this character and other characters too. But the main reason why I bring this up as a talking point, period, is because it is text heavy. It is, you get several of these in the game, and there are pages upon pages of reading text, and immediately when I see that or hear that, I'm like, oh, come on, man. I'm used to fucking Mass Effect by now, or hell, even Persona 5, where it's pseudo-talking. I mean, like, I can't just read walls of text. Read these walls of text. Trust me, they are fucking great. And they do a great job of fleshing out that character all the way through the game. So many good stories. Second, this game came out in 2007. This game is over a decade old.
Yeah.
And it from what I think I watched a couple videos. I'll go back and watch the Kime video all the time, the intro video all the time. One of the things that I loved about this that I had never seen up until this point, up until this video. The biggest complaint, spoiler warning for Final Fantasy VII, I guess, if you are listening to this podcast and you've not played Final Fantasy VII, I would question your age and I would genuinely question your taste in video games. Not in an offensive way. But in Final Fantasy VII, the big fucking spoiler, the biggest thing in the world, Ares dies. Oh shit. Well, that fucking sucks, but you're playing RPG. Why don't they just fucking use revive or life or a fucking Phoenix down or something? It's common in video games. It's a big trope. Like, if it's cutscenes, they're not going to use the shit they can use. Lost Odyssey does. In the very beginning of the game, they do it. There is an epic battle going on field with two giant opposing armies, and both sides are getting cut down left and right. And out of nowhere, they start getting revived on the field. They show, like, magicians up in these, like, clerical crystal-like towers, like, chanting and just humming out fucking revive spells all across the battlefield and reviving their teammates. That's awesome. I, to the point of playing that game, had never seen that, either mainly in gameplay cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome stuff. Definitely a good game. You should enjoy it. I'm gonna say you're gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing with it. The only reason I haven't yet was because of the Destiny 2 DLC. It surprised me on Tuesday. I saw someone. It said they were streaming it, but they're actually streaming Destiny 1 while they waited on the servers to come up. But I was like, oh, that's the thing. I was like, I wonder how much it is. So I went and looked, and I was like, oh, right, I have the thing that gives me all the DLC. I have the season pass. So I started downloading that. It was during the day I was working anyway, so I couldn't play it, but I had that downloading. And so when I got done with work and my side stuff, I was like, all right, I'm going to check this out. I've put roughly 6 hours into it now. And I finished the missions associated with the DLC. And this DLC raised the level cap to 30 and the power or light level cap to 385. It was 330. I don't know. It was quite a bit lower. Right now I'm up to 345, I think. So I have a ways to go. But it's, as far as the grind goes, it's pretty much identical to previous release and DLC. You have your weekly milestones to complete, and those give you your upgrades, and then you're done till the next week, essentially.
Yeah.
This did bring a bunch of changes, a bunch of patches, and one thing that I'm not sure exactly how it worked before because I haven't really cared at this point, but I believe it was you could only get raid rewards once per week. But now it's once per type of character or class of character. Because in Destiny 1, what people would do, they'd have 3 Titans. And they would, play on their first Titan, transfer all the gear over, play on their second Titan, transfer to a third. And they only had to worry about one set of gear for 3 characters. And that got them 3 attempts at all the loot every week. When Destiny 2 rolled around, they disabled that. You can't even use the armor from a different class on your class. Like, I'm a hunter. I can't use Titan armor except for my Titan. Even if it's the same type, if it's a helmet, doesn't matter. So they really restricted that capability. But now it's set to where you can get raid rewards 3 times a week by using different classes. But again, it only impacts that class. So it doesn't punish those that are playing different classes. Yeah. But it keeps the punishment for those that are trying to play 3 of the same class, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
I have 1 of each character, but I didn't even max out my other 2. I haven't actually been max light since Destiny 2 came out at this point. I kind of stopped playing it for a while. I just got bored with it. Doing the weeklies was not great, and I think what really killed it for me was I just had no desire to do the raid.
Yeah.
Now that I'm higher light, I might go back and do the raid just because I'm obviously stronger than I need to be for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll help me with dealing with groups and stuff. Because I've had really good luck with groups overall, but I've also had pretty bad luck in some of them.
Yeah.
It's like when they're bad, they're bad. All the rest are, average to good. But when they're bad, they're really bad, and that just kind of killed it for me. The raid wasn't worth going through that trouble.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it was worth it. Most Destiny 1 raids, I won't say most, I'll say the second half of the Destiny 1 raids, I was okay with it. I'd put up with the groups, and I dealt with it because I wanted to complete the raid. Overall, I enjoyed the raid to the point where I just wanted to play it, and I'd help players out if they weren't as good. I didn't mind. It's just, part of the process.
Yeah.
But in Destiny 2, the first raid, haven't had any desire. The other thing they added, I can't even remember what it's called anymore, but it's not a raid. It's something similar to a raid. It's associated with a raid.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a group thing. Also needing 6, so that's also part of what kills it for me.
Yeah.
But I didn't even touch that. Like I said, I don't even know what it's called anymore because I haven't even watched a video of how it works. But I haven't confirmed this, but I'm expecting that the raid will be released on Tuesday. It's normally a week after the game or DLC or whatever comes out.
Mm-hmm.
They give people a week to just focus on mission and level up and everything. And then Tuesday, everybody gets to go at the raid at once.
Yeah.
I may try it. We'll see how interesting it is. I may or may not finish it. That'll just depend. As far as the missions go for the DLC, the story's interesting. There are new mechanics that are interesting. And overall, playing through the mission, there are some actual difficult parts too. And I was at the, recommended level for it the whole way through. So it's just a little bit slightly harder. Not really in a bad way. The final boss of the DLC missions has... I'm trying to think of how to put this. It has a move that will insta-kill you, but you should never get hit by it.
Yeah.
Me being the idiot I am, I got killed by it twice, back to back. And fortunately, the fight does actually have checkpoints in it. It doesn't let you know when that checkpoint is. So the first several times I died, once of those was to the stupid thing. I restarted with the boss at like a fifth of its health gone. And the second checkpoint was when it had like a third left or something. Very random, weird numbers as far as health goes. Because I was like, okay, when I get it, maybe it's every quarter. It'll checkpoint. I had it down to like half and then died and was back up to, only a fifth missing. So that sucked. But I got through it. And like I said, story's good. I'm curious to see how it'll tie into the raid. We'll see. I will say it is good to be back playing Destiny. Even though the game can get me hooked and let me figure out what I was trying to say there. Even though it can't keep me, hooked, and I get tired of the repetitiveness, when something new comes out, I love it. It is still such a solid game. Yeah, it's a solid game. Playing it feels good. I think it's one of the best feeling shooters out there. And it's hard to describe, too, why it's better feeling. It just feels smoother and stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep playing it.
I run into that when I tell people that even though I haven't played it in God knows over a decade, I still have this fond, special place in my heart for Final Fantasy XI. Like, are you kidding me? It's so old, and 14's been out, and World of Warcraft is so much better, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but it's just hard to explain. I don't even know what life moments were going on. Maybe it's just the fact that it was my genuine first, like, actual MMO, not counting Phantasy Star Online. The music, I loved walking around the first beginning areas. I only played that game for a total of like 6 or 7 months of my life. I played Final Fantasy 14 for like 2 years, but 11 always just has this, I don't know, this fucking very at home, good heart feeling.
Yeah.
Just hard to explain.
Yeah. So that's it for me for games. The rest of my stuff is all stuff I've watched.
Okay.
All MCU related.
This is good. This is good.
Yep. So I finished off Luke Cage Season 1, which, like I said earlier, I thought there were like 27 episodes because when we started recording last week's episode, I had paused like episode 11. There were only 13.
Oh, wow.
So I was right there at the end of it. Luke Cage, it gives me mixed feelings. I like it more than I did Jessica Jones. As I've said, I think last week, the story overall I like more. It's a solid story, and his character is more enjoyable to watch, I think. And this is really more apparent in something I'll talk about in a minute that I watched. But I enjoyed it. It's a pretty solid show. And it's certainly better than the next one I watched, which was Iron Fist Season 1.
Again, I've only heard nothing but pretty much bad things about this.
I think the best way to put Iron Fist is that it was a good idea that wasn't executed properly.
Gotcha.
The overall story, I get it. It makes sense. The fight scenes were pretty good. I didn't really have any issues there, I think. I don't recall any that jumped out at me.
Which says a lot for the character, because I think I'd have to fact check me, please, dude. But I think there was something about the character never actually did martial arts in real life, and he had like a month or two to learn what he needed to. And apparently, Iron Fist is the martial arts guy in the comics.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's a martial arts guy. He's a guy raised by monks. His Iron Fist is literally his fist glows like yellow, and it, breaks things and things break on it. He shatters swords and stuff like that with his fist once it's glowing, using his chi. So the premise is good. I'm okay with that. It just, it felt awkward a lot of times. And part of that, I think, had to do with the characters. Later on, as more characters get involved, I think it gets better, which has kind of been a running thing with these Netflix series MCU shows. They start off slower, you get introduced to characters, and then things pick up, which makes sense. It's to be expected. You can't just drop everybody in at once most of the time and have it work very well. It's hard to say if I would prefer that over Jessica Jones or not. I think I would probably go with Iron Fist just because of the story aspect of it I enjoyed more. Even if it was, slightly, or it wasn't executed as well as it could be.
Yeah.
And it had that bit of awkwardness to it. So after that, I had finally watched all of the series that would allow me to watch The Defenders.
Okay.
So the premise of The Defenders is it's Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Daredevil as a group working together. They don't just drop them in, hey, we're all going to be buddy-buddy and fight crime or whatever. They actually work through in the first episode, and I think partly into the second episode, where they actually show, starts off focusing on Luke Cage. Some stuff happens, they switch a different character, and eventually these things overlap so that they meet each other. And some greetings are better than others. Characters, those main 4 characters don't know each other, but they have mutual friends or mutual acquaintances. So it's like, yeah, I know him. Yeah, I know him too. Both of you trust me, so you should trust each other. We're all on the same side type thing.
Yeah.
So it's a really neat dynamic, and it works well with what they did. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel, awkward when it shouldn't be. I won't say it wasn't awkward at all, because of course there are some awkward moments in there, but that's, that's how it goes. The plot of it tied up a lot of things that were kind of left open from the other individual series, which was good. And it wasn't that the series just didn't explain it, or it was like, oh, I wonder what happened there, something like that. There were just things like, oh, that makes sense. That goes well. That explains that. Not that it was a question I had, but now I know.
Yeah. Nice little addition.
Yeah. I don't think I really have any issues with it. It was fairly solid, all things considered. Jessica Jones, kind of the weak link, so to speak. Because you've got Luke Cage, who is, quote unquote unbreakable. He's bulletproof and takes a ton of stuff to damage him, You've got Daredevil, who is an all-around, badass. And Iron Fist, who, like I said, he can literally break, swords and stuff. Where Jessica Jones, she basically has super strength, and that's it. She has no extra durability. She gets stabbed, shot, etc. She's, borderline worthless. So she didn't really fit in as well, because she's not trained at all in any sort of fighting. So when she gets involved in something, it's just street brawl. And it doesn't fit well. I think if she had any sort of training to take advantage of her powers, that would make her a better character. But it makes sense that she doesn't with her backstory. It would, unless they, completely rewrote her backstory in some way, it would feel forced at that point. It would.
Again, go ahead. I was going to say, without having any comic knowledge, again, and just gleaming what I can from websites and YouTube videos and whatnot, the biggest draw that I ever got to Jessica Jones was her story arc with the Purple Man.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the basics of where it stopped, where it started and stopped for me. I've never read them. I haven't followed through all the way with it. I've got the largest gist of what happened, and some pretty bad shit went down.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, I mean, she's a gruff woman who fights kind of okay. That's about the best I got from her.
Yeah. Her big thing is she's a PI, the private investigator, and she's very, very good at it. So that's kind of her skill she brings to the table, other than her strength, which she can't use super effectively. Overall solid. I'll give it a pass. A pass isn't a good pass, as in passing a test. Not as in I won't watch it, or wouldn't watch it.
This guy got it.
Yeah. Next is actually a movie, and it is Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's your opinion of this movie?
Oh, man, give it mine first. Well,
I want to see how bad I'm going to upset you.
I mean, man, everybody has their own opinion. It's come on. You start talking shit about Jurassic Park, then we got problems. But so coming from Thor 1, which for whatever reason I not hated, but kind of sort of disliked Thor 1 the more that I watched it. Thor 2, again, with the huge upset at the beginning where it's like, oh, epic battle's about to go down, wham, bam, done. That's really about it. I actually kind of liked the villain of Malekith. I don't fucking know. He's a dark character. I thought it was cool. But the movie, again, as a whole, was kind of a letdown. 1 and 2 both were kind of like, okay. Thor Ragnarok came along, and it's got some humor issues. I'll give you that. But It's got a lot of good humor, and it has enough action where I care. I really like the villain. The side antics here and there, I can see where they were really trying for the humor. But I saw this with my wife, and again, coming from Thor 1 and Thor 2, oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Gave it a solid rating. I think it was a 4. I gave it.
Yeah,
in a nutshell, there you go.
I'm going to throw out there that I think this is my least favorite Thor movie.
Wow.
And it is possibly my least favorite MCU movie.
Jesus.
I'd have to go back and think about it a little bit more, but as of right now, Thor Ragnarok. Ragnarok is this epic event in mythology.
Yes.
It played essentially no part in the movie.
Right.
At the end of it, I was like, oh, well, why'd they call it Thor Ragnarok and not Thor Almost Ragnarok, or Thor, Ragnarok may be involved somehow. So that epicness was lost. As you mentioned, the comedy was funny. It was not bad comedy. It was misplaced comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And, all of the, I'm going to go out here and say all, because I'm pretty sure every one of them has had several comedic moments.
Mm-hmm.
It's hilarious, especially like where the Hulk's involved and stuff like that. And Ragnarok, probably the best comedic moment was Loki's, that's how it feels thing.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
By the way, just in case, spoiler warning for Thor Ragnarok. Go on.
Yeah, I was trying to be very vague and not give any spoilers.
Fuck that spoilers. Thor dies. Haha. Yeah. Take that. Take that. I already said spoilers, so not my fault. It ain't my fault.
But yeah, so there was too much comedy. It was basically the definition of try hard.
Yeah, and I felt that there was one particular point where I thought, okay, you guys really, you're really running this joke into the ground. It was kind of funny the first time, but where the third or fourth time was when Thor kept trying to calm Banner down. He's like, hey, sun's getting low. Hey, sun's getting low. And he's like, would you stop that? I was like, yeah, you actually said out loud, because it was not, I don't know, it was too much. It's like you kept running that joke way too far.
I didn't even see that as a joke. I thought he was legitimately trying to do that. And the first time he did it, I was like, this is awesome.
He was, but he's not the one that can do that. He doesn't have like the thing that she does.
Right. But it was still that
cute.
feel good moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just, the main villain got almost no time.
But the time she got, though.
The time she got was great, but there wasn't enough of it.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like, okay, this is the escalation of things, leading to the climax. It was just like, all right, here's a little bit. Okay, we're done. Yeah, it was cool.
I felt like this movie was a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy was bleeding over.
But not in a good way.
Right. Well, I mean, to each their own.
Mm-hmm.
But Taika Waititi, the writer, producer, director, one of the head honchos of this, he's had a lot of great, hilarious movies. If you haven't seen, something about the vampires, What We Do in the Shadows, I think is what it's called. Yeah, What We Do in Shadows, something like that. Anyway, I think that with him coming in out of nowhere and directing this movie, he may have not have known what to go for, and he just struck comedy as the go-to. And coming off of, for those that have seen Guardians 1 and 2, it's like, oh yeah, well, comedy hits really well. And I feel like he strung that into I'm just going to make Thor Ragnarok a feel-good fucking movie. I want people to laugh and have a jolly good time, and I'm not going to be too dark and too brooding, and it's not going to be too... It's not fucking Infinity War, I can tell you that right now. If you're looking for a feel-good, smiling, that was good Thor movie, you got it with this. That's what I took from it.
Just forget that Ragnarok is in the name.
Well, I thought the idea was that she wanted to bring Ragnarok around, yes, and Thor did not want that because that's bad. So, I mean, yeah, I can get it that Ragnarok's not there, and that's not the movie. But the point was they didn't want Ragnarok; they stopped Ragnarok,
right? And that part's fine. It's the way it ended. Was kind of the icing on the cake of, disappointment. It's like,
yeah.
So you're going to do that, but...
And it is What We Do in the Shadows is the movie I was saying earlier. Had to go get the title straight. Very good, hilarious vampire movie. Anyway, the letdown for me at the end of Thor Ragnarok was, this is how fucking petty fucking childish I am about the MCU now. You had the Hulk there, and again, the Hulk being what the Hulk is, and I'm trying to see where they're gearing Hulk to go, but the Hulk he fucking shot himself, and the minute that the bullet hit his skin, he turned into the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
He has ripped, like, he's picked up mountains. He's ripped planets apart. Man, that's probably a lie. He's done some powerful shit. When you see him on screen, he is supposed to be fucking intimidating and nigh unstoppable. The more you try to stop him, the more powerful he gets to counteract you.
Right.
At the end of Thor Ragnarok, he fights a fucking wolf. And he basically, like, lays him out and boom, done. I'm like, man, okay, exactly how powerful is this wolf supposed to be? And how long is this fight gonna last? And it's like fucking 40 seconds. No fight done. I'm like, that's not how you utilize the Hulk. You're not conveying anything with him. I understand that there's such it's a duplicitous edge that they have to walk with the Hulk, because they have this basic fucking, he's basically an endgame. No matter what they do, they can literally throw the Hulk at it, and the Hulk will just get pissed off enough so they have to write him down. They have to play him down.
Yeah.
I get that, but when you have a movie like this, and I mean, it was cool seeing Thor and the Hulk fight. That was a pretty good fight.
Mm-hmm.
But when he shows up, it's like, oh, fuck yeah, shit's about to go down, and then he fights a big wolf.
And I
wasn't
a fan of Hulk having so much dialogue in this movie. I don't feel that now,
especially the way it was geared toward,
Yes.
The way he was played.
Yeah.
He's not a baby, damn it.
No, he's not, but I don't feel like in the movies they had built up to that level of speech. Because Hulk is, considered pretty single-minded. Hulk smash, and sure, over time that changes, as Banner gets more and more control over Hulk. But they're not at that point. That just kind of felt odd.
Yeah.
To hear Hulk talk fairly clearly out of nowhere.
We'll see how they play him further on. You'll definitely get some more of him when you see Infinity War. Maybe you'll get some of what you're looking for. I know that from what I've seen so far, I hope, I understand, while neither condoning nor condemning, I understand why they do what they do with the Hulk. Because they literally play him out the way he's supposed to be, aside from some, I don't know, intergalactic intervention. I mean, it's really hard to stop the Hulk. You just throw power at power and power at it, and he just gets stronger, and he's like, no, you're not going to stop me. I'm going to stop you. So, we'll see. But all in all, again, just in my opinion, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. I left happy with it. Another thing that I took away from that movie, there were a lot of, hey, pause this screen and take a screenshot. There were a lot of fucking scenes in that movie that were, wow, that's fucking cinematic as fuck. So.
Yeah, it was a good looking movie.
Yeah.
I didn't have any issues as far as that went, production itself. Like I said, the comedy got to me too much.
I can see it. I can see, even when I was watching, I'm like, I can see how there's some people that might not like this.
Yep.
But.
So after I finished watching that, I was going to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, which is the current season, but it is not actually finished yet, and is not on Netflix yet. Which I thought Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a Netflix show. It apparently is not. It just goes on there, afterwards, after they actually do the full season. Hopefully I don't have to wait long, but I don't really feel like paying that much for a season of it, because it's new, so it's not cheap. So instead, I went and watched the series that, really started this whole set of binge watching, The Punisher.
Oh, yeah.
So, The Punisher is a pretty awesome character. In the comics, in the movie, and in the series. And his appearance in Daredevil. I will say, real quick, going back to the Defenders, at the end of it, I realized that the Punisher never showed up, and I felt that was a little bit of a disappointment. Because the way Daredevil ended off, him being around wouldn't have been unheard of. It would have made a little bit of sense in certain moments if he was involved, and I felt like they didn't take advantage of that when they should have.
Do you think maybe they'll do it later down the road?
I can see him. Well, let me think. I'm trying to think of how Daredevil actually ended. I mean, not Daredevil, but Punisher ended as far as the season goes. I don't know. It'll be interesting if he does. They're doing weird things with the character. He's going through what I'll call phases. and trying to reconcile his past, the traumatic events that have happened. He's dealing with all these things. And I was curious what the Punisher series was going to be about at all, because Daredevil wrapped up his stuff pretty well. But when it starts, it's like, oh, it's not resolved after all. Turns out there's this thing, he didn't know about. So now he's like, all right, I'm going to suit up and go deal with this now. But at the end of season 1, that's wrapped up. So unless they pull something else out, which at this point would be ridiculous, it made sense what they did. But at this point, as far as I can tell, and as far as my line of thinking goes, I think his past, as far as what they've covered already, is resolved.
Okay.
I don't think any of the stuff they've presented up to this point is unresolved. The only thing they could probably go off of would be more stuff that happened while he was in the military. That would be stuff they could build off of. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure where they'd go with it. So I'm not sure if there's a season 2 planned. I'm not sure what it'll be based around. But season 1, overall solid. It was a lot of wondering why they kept talking about this character, or these characters that they're not the Punisher. They weren't his targets. So why do they keep going back and forth between these guys? And it resolves okay. I say okay, it resolves fine. I don't really have anything negative about how it resolved. So it certainly leaves you hanging and feels strange at times, but it ends up making sense later. And I think they could have done that a little differently so that you actually understood, the character didn't know, but you as a viewer would know, okay, this is why we're seeing him now, or something, or so much. The first time it's like, okay, it's a casual character. You don't even know if they're going to be there later in the show or not. It's like, hey, this guy Bob, he's doing this thing. Okay, may or may not be relevant. Doesn't jump out and go, hey, I'm Bob and I'm going to be involved in the rest of the series, type thing. He may be a throwaway character, may not be. So that could have done a little bit better. But overall, the plot of it overall was good. The story was good. Near the end, there were parts that felt like they were dragging out. I don't want to say repetitive. I don't think that's accurate, but they just felt like, are we done yet? Why are we still doing this?
Yeah.
This should be resolved by now. What's going on? The way it wraps up, solid. Like I said, I think they resolved everything. I didn't see any holes. And, the ending sequence didn't hint at anything related to another series, or another season, rather. So that's why I'm very curious what they'll do if they do a season 2 of Punisher.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see more of a dynamic between him and Daredevil, but that's like oil and water. They do not mix well. But it made for a good story, though, in Daredevil, their interactions. Because you have Daredevil who doesn't kill, and you have the Punisher who does nothing but kill, essentially. So them two, even though they're on the same side, them working together is, one of those things. Which also, I'm trying to think, it comes into play in Daredevil with another character in the Defenders, because of the link to Daredevil mostly. Because Daredevil is very adamant about, if you're working with him, nobody dies. The moment you violate that, the deal's gone off,
Yeah.
But I hope they do more with Punisher, and I hope they do it well.
Cool.
And that's it for my watching. After that point, I actually finished all that last week. I think over the weekend, maybe. And I was like, okay, I'm done for now. I was looking on there. I was like, what could I watch? I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go watch some videos, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching Twitch streams because I haven't been watching many streams on Twitch at all. I've been watching, you know, Netflix instead. So I was like, you know, I'm just going to spend some time on Twitch. That's what I've been doing this week, watching various streams.
Mm-hmm.
I did get caught up on Critical Role. I say caught up, but I watched the episode for the week, I should say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still good. I'm still, you know, debating on whether or not I want to stop watching and let them build up or not. But for now, I'll probably keep watching just because I like getting a little bit of inspiration, you know, for our campaign.
Yeah.
I did watch the premiere episode of another D&D series over on JP's channel, which I've talked about him before, having the whole roleplay series. I say series, but it's several series under the family of roleplay. Starting back to what was the original roleplay, didn't even have a subtitle, but is now known as roleplay Solemn, I think, was the first one. They've had several. I think right now he has 4 shows going on, 3 or 4 different shows going on under the roleplay thing on his channel. He's not even in this one. JP isn't. He's just the host / producer. He's not the host, he's the producer, because you don't hear him, you don't see him, other than his snarky comments in the Roll20 chat every now and then about people's poor rolls.
Yeah.
Which is amusing. It's like Far Valona, which I am assuming is the name of a ship, is what it sounds like. They didn't really cover that in the first episode, but it's not a D&D game. It's a tabletop game, but it's a different system. I don't even know what it's called because I never played it. It's in the same universe as their previous roleplay, Swan Song, which Swan Song was the name of the ship that was involved in that one that they traveled around on. So it's a spacefaring, planet-to-planet type tabletop game. And it seems pretty good so far. It is a kind of a learning experience going from D&D, you know, to a different system. But enough of it is similar that it wasn't outrageous. The biggest thing, I think, was instead of rolling D20, I believe the rolls are 2D6. So you have, you know, your maximum roll isn't as high, but your minimum roll, there's not as many degrees of failure, you know? So it was, I didn't have any issues as from a, you know, mechanics perspective when I watched it. The players are pretty good. They do voices. Most of them do. I think one of them is just using his normal voice because he's, you know, British, so he doesn't need to.
Right.
But overall solid. The story solid so far. They left off on a very interesting cliffhanger. You know, it's the D&D way, the tabletop way. So you know, I recommend that to someone who's looking into a series that they don't want to have to worry about the backstory or get caught up on. There's literally one episode to watch.
Yeah.
And until, I believe, next Wednesday or Tuesday, I think it's Tuesday actually, until next Tuesday, you don't have a second episode to worry about. But it's over on JP's Twitch channel. You can literally Google roleplay with 2 L's instead of, you know, LE, and you'll find all their stuff, I'm sure.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. I think that's it for D&D other than our campaign.
Well, if that's it for your week, aside from D&D, we'll roll into D&D.
Yep.
I don't know on my end on D&D. I mean, we kind of didn't do a whole lot, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. You know, shit has to happen. But, I mean, fairly toned down episode session. I mean, we took care of some business. We're in town. We're taking care of some more business, and that was really about it.
Yeah,
we did all level up, so that's be interesting to see what new things come about next session. But
yeah, I was debating on what experience to give, if any, but the session before that I didn't give any out because it was just travel. But I felt like rewarding anything that would still leave you short of third level would be pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it's a pretty major, quest arc moment. I'm not going to say ending because it's not really over. Depending on what the players do, it may be over for the players. But this is a good checkpoint, so to speak. If the players get involved or stay involved, then it'll continue. If not, then it won't. Or at least for now, until they're forced to,
Right.
Because eventually things spill over and whatnot. I was very happy to finally get to this point. Even though I had no encounters, I literally have no encounters currently planned for the city. I was happy to finally get there, though, because of all the work I put into it.
And I imagine we all as a group I'm hoping that people are happy to get here because now we're in a big city.
Yeah.
Not some 3 or 4 building, no horse town. We're in a city now.
Yeah.
There's multiple armor shops, multiple item shops, multiple taverns, multiple places to visit. So this is good. And
you're not just in a city, you're in the capital.
Right.
So
right.
It'll be interesting to see what happens from here. I was very happy with the cleric. That was completely random, him deciding to go to the temple. And I enjoyed that moment for his character.
Yeah.
I hadn't really considered that he's never been to a populated area as a cleric.
Yeah.
This is his first time to actually be able to practice his faith with other people, so to speak.
I was like, good job. When he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go find my temple. I was like, oh, that's you should do that. You should be doing that. Yeah.
It was really awesome. I'm trying to think. The Bard's stuff is going to be interesting. He had a nice little interaction already. But his little family reunion will be interesting.
Yeah.
I have several ideas on how that should play out, and I'm debating right now on how it will. I was really glad we ended without me having to start that because now I have more time to think about it. But that's certainly going to be fun, I think.
Yeah.
I have stuff I'm working on preparing for your character. Which it'll be interesting. I'm trying to make sure I play it right.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to go, oh, this doesn't make sense or something, something like that. I want it to flow well with what you've established with your character and backstory, and what you envision your character doing, type stuff.
Do you have stuff planned out for the other 4?
I have with the cleric. I do have a couple of different things planned. I just have to figure out how to tie them in now because certain hooks have been missed.
Oh, man.
So it's one of those things where, okay, now how do I tie it back in? So I do have stuff planned for the cleric based on his backstory. The twins they're a little bit more difficult because they're a long way from home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did like the rogue's little moment he had. I enjoyed... I had planned that ahead of time. Specifically, if he took a watch, that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I wanted to... It wasn't anything serious. It was just a little kind of feel-good moment to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he felt about it yet, but...
I'm glad that it woke me up when I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I liked your reaction to it, jumping up ready for battle, and then you're like...
I was ready. I was like, oh shit, yeah, let's go. Oh. All right, have fun with that.
Yeah. And I'm being very vague. I shouldn't do that to our listeners. So that moment with our rogue, who is a tabaxi, which is a cat person, was they had stopped on the way to the capital at this farmer's place, and they were housed in this barn for the night. And in the morning, the farmer's daughter basically played ball with the rogue tabaxi, referencing, him as a kitty, just being a cute little kid. That was the whole premise of it, was this cute little kid, playing with the cat, who's actually a person, a rogue person.
6.5 foot tall. Cat.
Yeah. Huge person. And that was just, I kind of want to give him a moment of something good, considering their background. As, he's a rogue and he's more associated with the underbelly and stuff. So having a feel-good moment with his character, maybe help him see that there's not so much bad, they're still good.
Yeah. Unexpected too, because we're on guard duty.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, something could happen. Maybe not, but it could. And it was like, oh, what's going on? Oh, it's just a little kid.
Yeah.
Just a little kid.
And in the capital, the cleric who, in his backstory, he wasn't originally a cleric. He's actually fairly recent into being a cleric, and that was because the village he grew up in was attacked. Pretty much everybody died, so he headed off, went to another little village, settled down, or he's actually rescued by them, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. He's rescued by them, and the old man that took him in was a cleric of that god, and he basically became his assistant.
Cool.
And then that town was attacked and essentially burned to the ground, and if I'm not mistaken, he was the lone survivor, or one of the few survivors of that too. So he's had a very traumatic recent past. And getting to the capital, he went to the temple for his god, and the priest welcomed him with open arms, and he got to experience for the first time that belonging to the church and to commune, I won't say appropriately, but officially with his goddess. The bard, Dandelion, he's from the capital, so coming back here is very much directly connected to his past, his present, and his future, possibly, So the first thing he did was, did I see anybody around that I know? And of course, him being him, rolls over a 20, so I'm like, yeah, apparently there is. So he immediately notices a woman who was a previous friend with certain benefits, and they had a little conversation. And then where we left off, he's actually going to a very, highly anticipated visit with his father, who is a fairly wealthy merchant in the city, which that'll be interesting because Dandelion is nothing like what his father wants him to be, Yeah. He's doing things and he's not really participating in the business. He's not really doing anything that a son of a merchant would do.
What's with this goat boy?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, as far as, overall plot, the group as a whole, you pass off your message to the Knights Tempest, who are the who are the police force for the entire country, as far as the upper tier goes. And that's kind of where we left off. All the characters are now level 3, so we'll be doing level up stuff before the next session, which I think I haven't heard a whole lot, so I guess everybody's doing okay with their stuff. Have you looked at yours yet?
Yeah, mine's already finished. So.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. We'll see how it all turns out on the next episode of the Goat Squad Z.
The Order of the Goat.
Yeah. No, I refuse. Cool. If I guess that caps off our D&D talk, I will roll into my week since Mr. I don't think I have a lot, fucking hour-long Chris here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to beat him and do my week in 10 minutes. I can do this. I'm ready for this. All right, here we go. So, first off, watching stuff. I didn't watch a damn thing except one movie. I watched it a couple nights ago. Annihilation. I finally got around to watching that. I felt like an asshole because I didn't understand it. It was another one of those movies where after the end, I had to go... I'm going to have to go look up a fucking synopsis. So there's a YouTube channel I check out every now and again that he just basically summarizes movies. He goes through plot lines and explain things that maybe you missed or maybe you wanted more explanation of. I'm literally looking up his channel right now because I forgot I was going to talk about him. But visually good movie. It's sci-fi. It's got some horror elements too, but right around the end of the movie, I started getting that I don't kind of losing the thread here, kind of not understanding what's going on. And then when it ended, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have that explained. I must have missed something, or it's one of them fucking too smart movies. Mm-hmm. Found Flix, Flix is his channel's name. Got a lot of good endings explained and analysis, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's worth a rent, I suppose. If sci-fi movies are up your alley, check it out. Maybe you'll love it. I hear a lot of people have just absolutely fallen in love with this movie, and for me, it was okay. It looked good. I was wanting to see where it was going, but yeah. That was all my watch stuff. Games. I'm still in that funk. Still kind of in that turmoil where I can't really decide on what I want to play. I went through my Steam library and bounced back and forth through a few games. Still kind of sort of playing Neo. I have reached a wall and I've kind of put it down for a minute. This is not uncommon with me. I've actually done this for every single Dark Souls game and Bloodborne and Demon Souls, where I will get to a point where I'm just hitting a wall and I know I'm supposed to go this way, but it's a combination of different things. This one right now is there is a long string of enemies before the next checkpoint, and I keep making progress, and I'm not reaching the checkpoint. I'm sure I'll get there, and it's probably something I'm doing. Maybe I'm not upgrading my weapons enough. I've been known to do that as well. I'm making the game fucking harder on myself.
Yeah.
But I will muscle past this at some point. Eventually, I'll get past this wall, just like I did for every one of these kind of games, and I'll go beat it. I picked up... I've been playing through some Mega Man. I've been playing through Mega Man Legacy Collection 2 because I've actually never played fully Mega Man 9, and I've never played Mega Man 10 at all, even though I had both of these games for the Xbox 360. I now have them on Steam, and I'm working my way through them. Mega Man games, especially 9 and 10, are notorious for being difficult. They're just built that way. And I go back to Mega Man 9 every now and again, just maybe every day, every other day. I'll just go knock out a couple levels or try to anyway. Not a hardcore work. It's become like an in-between for me right now. I started playing another one called Pyre. I'm going to come back to this eventually. I'm not in the mood for an RPG right now. Mm-hmm. I'm not in the mood for narration and stuff like that. Just not feeling it. I can see the potential in Pyre. It's got some good hooks. It's got some interesting storytelling and an interesting story, but I just gently put that down. Not ready for that right now. Slain, Back from Hell, side-scrolling slash 'em up type game. Actually, really cool thing about this is it has a lot of parry and riposte mechanics in it, which is very, very cool. Another one where it's maybe an in-between game. I believe it has checkpoints and save abilities as well. So either I'll come back to it later or in between. know there was another one. Valda's Story, side-scrolling, slash 'em up as well, but kind of roguelike tendencies in it. Kind of give or take. I feel like I may need to come back to this at another point and just give it another try. Just wasn't feeling it, but not in a negative way. Just again, I'm just in this fucking turmoil right now where I don't know what I want to play. I was actually on the cusp of going back to God of War. I was thinking about putting on give me God of War mode and just saying fuck it, let's do it. But I haven't yet. I'm still stewing on how great of a game that was, and still riding that fucking coast and that high of it being such a great experience. I may or may not, but I know when I do, and I'm not gonna fucking stop until I beat that game all the way through on that difficulty. And I don't know when I'm gonna be ready to do that. But I played Might of Number 9 for all of 20 minutes.
Yep.
Well, okay. I'm gonna say this. A few things I did right off the bat to this game. Okay, right off the bat, I went into options. I changed the voice dialogue to Japanese. That got rid of a lot of my issues, because even in watching gameplay of other people play, I do not like the voice acting. I don't like voice acting. I don't like English voice acting, period, that much, because they fucking talk too much and they always have to constantly fucking say shit. So throwing it to Japanese made it a little more bearable. There is a audio mode where it goes, you can change the soundtrack to a classic, like 8-bit style soundtrack. I did that as well. Again, this is before I even got into the game. I was already manipulating shit to what I experienced I wanted. Those two changes alone made the game a little more bearable. I made it through the first level. I made it through the intro level and stopped playing. Not angrily, not upset. Just I need to come back to analyze this some more. But I'm not feeling that game. Mm-hmm. I don't hate it. Let's go ahead and get that right out the way. The Mega Man fan, the man. I do not hate Mega Man, Mighty Number 9. There are some design choices in that game that I just don't prefer. Number one, too much dialogue, too much story shit they're trying to push. I get it. It's Keiji Inafune doing something different. He's wanting to have a more story-rich game. I get that. I don't need that in these games. I've never have. It's not that big a deal. I wanted so bad to wall jump and wall climb and wall slide. You cannot. You can only ledge grab and pull yourself up. It's just taken so long to get used to, because I'm trying to go for the walls. They almost look like they're designed to be grabbed, but you can't. You can only ledge grab. And I was getting severely pissed off at enemies right off the bat because they were taking way too many hits to kill.
Yep.
Way too many. Like 15 fucking pellets into one basic bitch fucking enemy at the beginning of the game. And then I remembered, 20 enemies down the way, oh, I'm supposed to be doing this fucking dash through them shit. So I hit them 1, 2, maybe 3 times. They stun. They change a slight different color. I dash through them. Great! And I don't even know what I'm getting. I'm getting points, I guess. Yeah. Is this game score-based? Am I getting currency to spend money on something later? I better be able to buy a wall jump if that's the case. I don't know why the dash thing is in there, but I don't care for it. It just seems so out of place. Yep. Especially, again, I know this is not Mega Man X, and I know this is a departure from classic Mega Man, but I want to dash, not like this. Like, I want to dash and jump, and you can't. Yeah. And I want to wall jump, and you can't. I'm going to make it through some more of this game. I'm going to go through some levels. I mean, I may even fucking dump it all and just beat the game. I don't know. But I can tell you right now, do I hate this game? No. As compared to Mega Man games, does it fit? Bastardized version? Yeah. The biggest issue that I have with Might of Number 9 is the money that was dumped into that game, and this was the product.
Yeah.
This is not good. Like this was $3.2 million, I think was on this game when the Kickstarter when it was finished, something like that, some big fucking amount of money, and this is what we got. And I don't think it matches up. I don't think I don't think it fits. So I'm not a fan of it. We'll see where it goes. And then I put in Ratchet and Clank. This is the 2016 or 17 remake. This is on the heels of the Ratchet and Clank movie that came out, and it's basically the original game remastered. And understandably, I spent maybe 2, maybe 3 days on this game. I've already beat it. I've already got all the things I needed to get in it. I put my time into it. Ratchet and Clanks are not meant to me. They're almost a Kirby level of difficulty at times. I mean, they're not meant to be super hardcore difficult. They do have levels of difficulty. Don't get me wrong, but they're meant to be gone through. You experience them, you have a good time with them, and for the most part, yeah, I did. I like the choices they made. They made a lot of narrative choices. As in taking other races from other games, from other like PlayStation 3 and 4 generation games, and bringing them into this game and fleshing out the world better. I mean, it's got better graphics. It's got updated music. Most of the core game is still there, and you still get the core game from the original. So, well, I had a good time with it. I've discovered something that I like about PlayStation 4 games. I like about modern games that I've seen it, and maybe I just haven't. I guess because of what I played recently, it's becoming more of a prevalent issue for me. Mm-hmm. I really like motion blurring in games. I've noticed that a lot when I was playing God of War. It does become an issue when you're taking screenshots because they blur all the time. But I really like the motion blur. There's motion blur all over the place in God of War, and there was motion blur in Ratchet and Clank. That is a graphics design choice that I can see where it's used. I see it when it happens, and I like it. It makes the experience pretty cool for me.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm usually okay with, but there have been a couple of games where I'm like, this is just, it needs to be toned down, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm taking it overboard.
Yeah. And really, as far as everything for my week, that's it. I was on the verge of trying some other games. I thought about starting. I still have some 3DS games I want to try. I want to get into, and again, it's just that fucking. It's breaking myself of it's okay to sit in your recliner and play your DS, man. It's cool. If I can get the fuck over that, I'll be all right. I thought about going and playing Yakuza 0. I bought that last year based on or this year, I think, based on the, high praise it got, damn near Game of the Year awards that people were giving it. And I think all in total, I played maybe an hour of that game, and I put it down. I was not feeling it. I don't know what to expect from that game because I've never played a Yakuza game at all. But if there is I'd like the audience to tell me, like, who is Yakuza for? Like, what audience is Yakuza 0 built for? What am I expecting? What should I be expecting from this game? Specifically, when does the hooks happen? When do the hooks happen? Because I was playing through it. It's got its own unique style, its own unique look, but almost boredom. I was just like, this is going somewhere. Like, are we doing something? What are we doing here? So before I trade that in, I'll want to give it another try. And also, I think that I started that on the heels of playing something else. I think maybe I started it. I think I maybe tried to give it a try either before or after Persona 5. I forget. But and also, I'm not mentioning I can't think of the other like 5 or 10 different games that I try to go through, and I just, again, like anywhere from 5 minutes to 20 minutes, I just put it down. It's turmoil. It's hard for me to decide, oh, damn, what am I thinking? I'm retarded. There is a game I'm playing right now. I went back through my library and looked, and I was like, oh, shit, I've got 3D Dot Game Heroes for the PlayStation 3. I've had that game. I made it a point to get that game. years ago, and I've had it in my library forever, and I've never played it. And I'm now playing through it. I'm in the second dungeon of the game right now. It's unique. It's charming. It has its cool moments, and it's got my attention for now. So we'll see how far I take this through.
And what game is that?
3D Game Heroes. It is basically it's a PlayStation 3 3D pixelated version of a Zelda type game. Go here, collect things, go to the next castle, blah, 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 blah. Reminiscent of the old school Zeldas, the top-down Zeldas, Zelda 1 and Link to the Past, stuff like that.
Okay.
So, it's got my attention. It's pretty fun. We'll see what happens. Just know that one day if you see PlayStation pop up and I'm playing God of War, I've dove back in. I see pictures and videos all over the place. People are still talking about God of War. They're still playing it. They're still enjoying it. I'm like, I kind of want to get back into it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I was watching JP's show called Drop Frames, where it's their weekly, it's not really a gaming cast, but it's, what they've been doing on Twitch, essentially. It's a Twitch focus thing. And their guests they had on, they were talking about God of War. So I was like, oh, and they I don't want to say spoiled because it's not a big deal, but they did finally, I found out how I was supposed to avoid that attack that was unblockable and stuff. And I don't know that I would have ever figured it out on purpose. I can see how I would have accidentally figured it out. But they did also talk a lot about the difficulty stuff. And when I had asked you last week about, was it this boss, that you're describing? The reason that it's not the same is because my bosses have different moves than yours.
Yeah.
It adds moves to them. So it's not just the same one, a little bit stronger or doing more damage. It's literally they add, a little bit more difficulty to the moveset you have to avoid.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do it. I kind of just want to go through the game again, period. Just to fucking go back through the game and play it and get back in those beautiful zones and back into that great combat. Yeah. There's not a lot for me to just go through the game on the hardest difficulty. I feel like I'm just going to give myself a fucking controller breaking rage moments for I'm gonna throw this out there. The guest they had on, he 100% the game on the hardest difficulty. Cool. Like I've been working on, and him fighting the last Valkyrie, the one you unlock, it took him 4 hours. Wow.
To beat.
It's understandable, man.
So,
like I said, I've already been here with games like this. I've been through Bloodborne, I've been through Dark Souls, been through Dark Souls 2 and 3 and Demon Souls. I've already had all my time in the shade with all these fight one boss for hours, even days. I'm looking at you, fucking Calamite. I will solo you one day. But we'll see. I do get a thrill. I do get the victory moment of fucking hell yeah, I am the golden god because I beat this game on the hardest difficulty. And it's itching on me. It's itching. But I also know that when I start that shit, I'm not going to stop. And it's going to be fucking 2 months later. All right, so I'm still playing God of War. And I'm still on this boss. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
Last really tiny tidbits of things. My wife and I went to a local restaurant. We had some Greek food, some more authentic Greek food, trying out a new restaurant. That was great. And we also tried a local candy store, as in they make their own candy in shop. And it was a wide variety of candy. Gummy candy, chocolate candy, sour candy, tart candy, cookies, all that stuff. For you and for the audience as well. Go find a local candy store and support your local candy store because, man, it's good shit. Good food. So, that wraps up our weeks. That wraps up all the good stuff. We are going to roll into today's topics. Probably going to be another long one, so I hope you got double butter popcorn ready. Because we are doing another year in review. This year, we are doing 1992. At this point in the gaming's life cycle and video games life cycle, I mean, the Super Nintendo's already out. It's doing great things. The Nintendo it's not dead yet. It's not necessarily running into its end years. I think 97 was when they discontinued, or maybe 95. I forget. But they're still releasing Nintendo games at this point. The Genesis is still out. I mean, this is slowly creeping up on the 16-bit era.
Mm-hmm. The Sega CD came out.
Yeah, Sega CD came out. Kind of also known as the Street Fighter year this year. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But let me look at some hardware shit real quick. The Atari, this is interesting. The Atari dropped the 2600 as of this year. Which is crazy for me because I didn't have that impact at this time in my life. The first impact that ever happened to me was actually when the Nintendo stopped. When they discontinued the Nintendo and basically stopped supporting the Nintendo. Again, I think that was either 95 or 97. But that was like, oh man, because it basically means like there's no more games coming out for the system. System's done.
Yeah. And just one real quick correction, what I just said. The Sega CD came out in North America this year. Okay. Japan was last year, was 91.
Totally understandable. The Super Nintendo is, you're going to see some baby steps in this one. The hits haven't come. There's a couple good ones this year, but the fucking slobber knockers are on the way. And I actually didn't find this out until research today that the Super Nintendo ran pretty much till 99 in North America, and it kept going. The Super Famicom kept going in Japan till like 2003. So awesome. But for those that aren't acquainted with these with this series that we do, it's basically we're going to go through 1992. We're going to go through the video games. There are a shit ton of games in this year, as they're going to be increasingly for every year from here on. I've warned our audience that we are literally going to have episodes where Chris and I are going to have like 5 minutes apiece to talk about our weeks, and it's 4 hours of an episode because games are increasing. I mean, the more years there are, the more games that are coming out. Yeah,
this is the first year where I looked at the list and I was like, ooh, I can't wait to actually, get to this year. Because in the past, like I've, mentioned before, got to be patient with me because I didn't start, my gaming doesn't go as far back as Michael's does. Yeah. But now we're starting to get into it.
Good. And another real quick for those that are, this is your first year in review with us. Again, we're just going through the year and we're talking about notable games of the year. Particularly notable games for us. I know when I make my list, I typically try to pick games that I have played or I have experience with. I may throw in some tidbits like, yeah, I remember reading about this, or hey, this is actually a big deal in the gaming world, but we're just reminiscing in the years that these games came out and just, giving some credit where credit's due. So on that note, let's start at the top, and we'll start with the A's. I'm going to go first. First game right off the bat. Be really short and sweet with this one. Nintendo had another release of an Adventure Island. Adventure Island 3 came out. Repeat everything I said before about Adventure Island 2 and tack it on Adventure Island 3. I mean, it's the same stuff, but different levels. You get to ride pet dinosaurs around the world. It's good stuff. It was more of that. And I think this is I don't think there was an Adventure Island 4, but again, Adventure Island 2 and 3 are almost interchangeable of how their gameplay was. Any A's for you, Chris?
Nope.
Battle Clash. I'm going to bring this one up because this is very important that this year the Super Nintendo released the Super Scope. I unfortunately never had a Super Scope in my life. I never even went to a friend's house that had one, and that's sad because I went to a lot of friends' houses that had video games, and I borrowed a lot of shit from a lot of friends, and unfortunately, no Super Scope. There were quite a few games that were released with the Super Scope or released to use the Super Scope. This was one of them. One I always wanted to play. I've seen commercials for the Super Scope, and I also saw video game magazine adverts with Battle Clash on it. And having having a fucking rocket launcher style gun attached to your shoulder and shooting machines. Hell yeah, I'm all over that. That sounds cool. I just wanted to mention it because I thought it was a cool game. Unfortunately, I've never played it, and I should, but I never have. Biohazard Battle. Yeah. Came out this year. This game is relatively unknown to the gaming world. Sort of well known in the shmup gaming culture world, but it's particularly it has a fond place in Chris and both of our hearts because we played this game together in our younger years. This is a you can play it 2-player co-op. It's a shmup. You can pick one of 4 different fighters. You have weapon upgrades. You have different types of weapons you can use. Has a lot of Mode 7-esque graphic situations in the game. Very pretty game. Very unique and interesting, disgusting bosses too at times.
And pretty difficulty once you get a little further in.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, Chris and I never beat this together, but again, and this goes back to just me as a gamer. I don't play games just to beat them. The fact that this game is good for me, thinking back to days of me and Chris having a medium-sized paper bag filled with $5 of Airheads and Snickers and like 40 freaking 5-cent candies and a can of fucking cream soda and playing this game on a TV together. Yeah. That's what this game is to me. Did I beat it? No. Did we beat it? No. We played together. Fucking fun. That's all my B's, man.
Yeah, same here.
Yep. Contra 3, Alien Wars. This is the Super Nintendo installment of Contra. Graphical upgrade. I mean, that goes without saying for almost all these Super Nintendo games. But again, it takes the core concept of what you remember of Contra, side-scrolling. It's a shoot 'em up, but not like a shmup. It's more of a gun shooter. You have weapons that you can upgrade. You have weapon types that you can change to, like a spread gun and a fucking flamethrower. Again, it uses the Mode 7 graphics for a lot of bosses. They start to show their power, start to show their graphical design power. Still difficult. Most all Contras that I can ever remember playing all had that arc of difficulty to them, mainly because they were one shot, you're dead. It's understandable. I personally have only made it to maybe the 4th or 5th level of this game, and even then, it was back in my teenage years, so can't really say much else on it. Just the fact that this is the Super Nintendo's entry. This is the Contra entry into the Super Nintendo world. Thought it was noteworthy. That's it for my C's.
Yep.
Darkwing Duck. This is another of the Capcom legacy here. The company Capcom is so awesome, or was so awesome, and has kind of made a slump down in the years, and is slowly making a resurgence. Maybe, hopefully, we'll see. The Devil May Cry game and the Mega Man game coming out, and we'll see if they ever fix Marvel vs. Capcom. Our company in review type episode will come later down the road. But anyway, this is back in their heyday. This was back when Mega Man was shit hot. This is where they were taking on most of the Disney afternoon cartoons and making video games out of them.
Yep. And
they were very good. I've never actually played the original Batman NES game, the one that's really good, unfortunately. I hear this is kind of like it. It has a lot of... actually, I did play Darkwing Duck. I only played a few levels of it. This is actually a couple years ago. But I think it has some ceiling clinging abilities, side-scrolling, action, shooting type deal. You can get power-ups as well. Again, unfortunately, I only made it a few levels in, so I can't talk tremendously largely about it, but it's up there with the Capcom making Disney-themed video games and doing them very well, doing good justice. I put Dragon Quest V on here. I never played Dragon Quest V. I never played many Dragon Quests. I mean, I played Dragon Warrior, played Dragon Warrior 1 and 2, and I played Dragon Quest, I want to say it was either 7 or 8. I forget which one. Anyway, I put Dragon Quest 5 on here just for people to understand where that Final Fantasy was not alone.
Yeah.
Like we in the United States thought it was alone, but in Japan, they had Dragon Quest. At this point in time, we'll get to the next game in just a minute, but they were up to Final Fantasy IV at this point, and that was back in 91. And this is Dragon Quest V coming out this year. And I think, let me scroll down and cheat a little bit, there is another series. Nope, actually they made its first debut this year. But just for the record, just pointing it out for the audience, for those that don't know, Final Fantasy is a big deal. It or was a big deal, however you want to say it. But Dragon Quest is also equally, especially in Japan, a big deal. They are neck and neck almost in going up the years in video games and releases and title quantity and popularity, all that. So thought it deserved a good mention.
Yeah, it's one of those big ones that you never really heard about growing up, but as an adult looking back, going, wow, these were actually really popular.
Right.
Just not here. And as a matter of fact, Dragon Quest V was not released in North America until or outside of Japan, I'll say, because it's North America, Australia, and EU.
Yeah.
Got the game in 2009 on the DS.
Yep.
So they didn't apparently want to deal with doing the English-speaking cartridge because it cost more.
Yep. And I mean, I need to do my personal homework and figure out why there was Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest. More will come on that in the future. But in any event, I just wanted to stress that this is something I didn't realize even myself until way later in my life. That again, we're just so used to Final Fantasy being the one all. I know there are other RPG series. I'm not making that argument. What I'm saying is that when we think to video game RPGs, immediately our brain goes to Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
In Japan, they go to Dragon Quest. I mean, that's their baby. So that's all of mine for the D category.
I did want to just throw out there, we haven't talked about this for any of the past years, but there are actually, Dungeons and Dragons games that were frequently released back then. 92 had 2 of them. Don't know how good they were, these ones, but I think the one in one of the last couple of years was actually pretty good. Some of them were in arcades, not just on the console. So they were designed to, eat your quarters, which isn't hard to imagine with a D&D type environment.
Right.
But if you have an interest in D&D, some of them may be worth checking out.
If that's it for your D's as well,
yep.
Echo the Dolphin.
Yeah.
Sega Genesis game. Now, I don't remember if we played this one.
I believe I owned the Sega CD version of it.
Yeah. I have played Echo the Dolphin a few times. I don't remember how I played it. I may have been in another friend's house. But definitely an odd game. No, well, okay, let me scratch that. I don't mean odd as in like it's a bad game. I mean it was kind of out of the blue. This is literally a game where you controlled a dolphin. Technically, this shouldn't be that odd for me because I did have an Atari 2600, and one of those games was Dolphin, so not like I'm not used to that. But this was basically a mystical fucking dolphin that the world was being invaded by aliens, and he had to go around the underworld, the underwater world, and go through levels.
I'm going to throw this out there, that I never looked up a guide for this game, so I never got past like 15 minutes into it.
Right.
Something like that.
Else I remember as well.
There's just a hard stopping point. It's like, okay, I've literally bashed my poor dolphin's nose into everything possible. I've, done this little echolocation thing. I see something I should be able to interact with, but I have no way of triggering it. I have no idea what's going on. And it's one of those games that I'd pick up every now and then go, am I smart enough to figure this out now? Nope. Yep. All right, I'm done. And I never
say that was the same for me. Again, I have vague memories of playing this. I remember wanting to play it. I remember just seeing magazine adverts for this game and being interested. Like, what is this game? How is this? This is being advertised like extremely well. They really want people to play this game. And I've only played it a handful of times. And I think most of those times came to the same thing. Like, there was just a point where it's like, I don't know what to do. It almost has a puzzle-like aspect to the levels. Like, you have to figure out where to go and how to get there. And you can use different abilities, different attacks. But, yeah. Just wanted to point the game out for being fucking out there.
Yeah.
Like, just something you don't think of. You know, you get to control a dolphin.
Yeah.
And go stop aliens.
As a concept, and I had no idea about the aliens thing. I didn't know what my objective was or anything like that. I never got anything like that.
That's actually a spoiler, I guess, because you don't find that out until like the last boss. I think the last boss shows up and it's basically an alien. It looks like an alien queen. But sure.
But it was fun to play what little I could figure out.
Yeah, but up until the sticking points, it's actually interesting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Any other E's?
No.
Final Fantasy V.
The Final Fantasy that nobody ever talks about.
Exactly. I have played. This is sad. Number one, again, as this is what I kind of wanted to hint at earlier, but I didn't want to say it. So, Dragon Quest V and Final Fantasy V, same year. Mm-hmm. So this is just more concrete for people to understand. If you didn't know this, to start getting in your head that Final Fantasy is not the only fucking RPG out there. But anyway, Final Fantasy V, I never played this until there was some PlayStation game that had Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy V together. And I played through Final Fantasy V all the way one time. And unfortunately, I cannot tell you much about it. I think the main character's name was Bartz or Butts. I think that was a joke. I honestly do not remember much about that. I don't remember anything. You know, I own that 2-disc set, but I never played 5. I actually never played 4 on that set either. I don't know why. It was one of those things that I was like, I should play this, and I never did. Yep.
It was strange.
I should go back through Final Fantasy V in my later years. I need to do that. I still have Final Fantasy III, the 3D remake for the Steam version I have. And I need to go through that. I kind of want to finish 4 first since I'm so far into 4. But I feel like maybe I just rushed through 5. I don't know. Maybe it was some weird time in my teenage life where I just don't remember a damn thing about the game, but I honestly don't, and that's sad. I don't remember anything being bad about the game. Well, let me rephrase that. It's not that I don't remember there being anything bad about the game. It's that I don't remember anything about the game, period. So, sorry, folks. Wish I had more Final Fantasy stuff for you. Please, if you have thoughts on Final Fantasy V, you can email us at anytimecast. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you and the audience as well. Guilty pleasure game of mine. I like Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. Now, just hear me out before the knives come my way. This is not a quintessential Final Fantasy. This should not have the Final Fantasy title, aside from having crystals and I mean it's got some Final Fantasy stuff, maybe, kinda. If this game was not called a Final Fantasy, it would be okay.
Mm-hmm.
The game is piss easy. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
The game's battle system is fucking goofy. You know, click this fucking stone tablet 10 times and fight 10 enemies before you can move on. Yes, I get that. I don't know. I wish I could tell you all the reasons why I'm. This is a guilty pleasure game for me. This is a game where like I know it's bad, but I enjoy playing it. I like the battle music. I like the music of the game. I like the world manipulation where you know you get this is the first that I can recall of something like, hey, if you get an axe, you can actually use that axe to chop down trees and make a path. You get a dragon claw, like hook shot almost, and it will let you like traverse across the gaps and stuff like that. The enemies taking progressive amounts of visible battle damage. That was cool. Again, piss poor easy game. I know that, and I know there's a big fucking controversy about it being designed that way. This was Japan's way of going, okay, Babbies want a fucking RPG. We will give Babby an RPG, and this is the best they can handle. It's not a fucking 10 out of 10. It's not going to win awards, but again, this is like, I don't know. I equate this, real talk, I equate this to Limp Bizkit. I like Limp Bizkit. I grew up with Limp Bizkit in high school. I never got out of Limp Bizkit. But everybody around me is like, ooh, you really shouldn't listen to that. Well, I shouldn't like Mystic Quest, but I do.
You know what? I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you anything about it, but I did beat Mystic Quest. Yeah, I will say, I probably shouldn't say this, but it was actually one of the first Final Fantasies I beat after Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. I mean, it's understandable. This is 1992, folks. You've got that, and that's, I mean, really much it. You don't have Dragon Quest V. That's in Japan. You don't have Final Fantasy V. That's in Japan. So when you go from Final Fantasy IV, you're like, I want something else. Then this comes out. It's understandable that you get it and you're maybe disappointed because of the vast amount of Final Fantasy-esque changes that come along. But, I mean, it is what it is. I enjoyed it. Any other Fs for you?
Let me double check. I don't think so. No, I only had those two Final Fantasies.
All right. For the Ks, I've got two of them. I've got a pretty underknown, Oh, by the way, I'm skipping letters too, by the way. If there's something between K.
I don't have anything till L.
Okay, we're good. Jesus, Chris. Okay. So, one relatively unknown game. And again, I want to stress this. I'm not saying this shit to act like I'm some fucking hipster guy that's played shit that you haven't played or the audience hasn't played. Most of these games that I say it like that are like, even I didn't know. I've never heard of them and got it, was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. And then the other game is actually well-known as a franchise starter, actually. The first one is Kickmaster. Yeah. Kickmaster for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't remember how I came across this one. I think this may have been one that I rented at a local gas station type situation and eventually just got it. Very, very interesting side-scrolling action beat-em-up style game. As the title would make you guess, the main character is a kick master. Almost all of his attacks are kick-related. Mm-hmm. And you can, I forget if it's either you just get them, I think you get them by leveling up and or you also get them from purchasing them. But you get different moves as you go throughout the game. They're almost fighting game in input style to make them happen. You know, you have like a slide, you have a flying kick, a vertical kick, like a backflip, a twirling kick, a hurricane kick, all these things. There's lots of loot to collect, so to speak. There's a lot of, you kill an enemy, they explode, and like a bunch of shit flies, and you got to try to grab them before they all fly off screen. Interesting artwork, interesting bosses, a fairly decent difficulty challenge throughout the whole entire game. Interesting level design, pretty good music. Again, I have never fucking heard of this. I think this was like a bottom of the barrel. I'm just gonna rent it because, and was. I've loved that game ever since I played it. I don't think I've ever beat it. I need to go back and make that happen, but definitely made it pretty far. Probably 4 or 5 levels into this game, and enjoyed it. Just hit me out of nowhere, and enjoyed it. Other game, definitely well known. The first game to start off the Kirby franchise came out this year. Kirby's Dream Land for the Nintendo Game Boy. Many of Kirby's tropes and the what Kirby for did start here. I'll give you that. He does suck in air and can float and fly. He can suck in enemies and then spit them back out to make damage happen. There are some key enemies that started here that are still around, like Wispy Woods and Krakow. But this game is very short and it's very easy, and those are the easy difficulty will pretty much stay throughout Kirby's lifespan, and I'm completely fine with that. For those that don't like Kirby because it's very kid-like, I completely understand that. You can look at something like I want to say Yarn. Yoshi's was Woolly World. Kirby's Yarn something.
I don't know what it was. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. You can look at most Kirby games, and you can almost sleep through them. They have difficulty here and there, but it's so fucking rare, and so they're not meant to be hard. And I've always liked Kirby games for that. They have their draw is the general progression throughout the levels, and later starting with the I want to say it starts with the Kirby's Dream Land for the Nintendo, the ability to suck enemies in and then get their powers. That's what Kirby's known for now, and that's been expanded upon where you can, suck in two enemies, and who knows what the combination is going to be. It's that interest of, man, what's going to happen. But it all started here in 1992 on the Game Boy, and if you pick this game up today and play it, you've got maybe half an hour gameplay, if that. It's very simplistic. It's very quick. I think there's only 4 levels in the game, but this is where it started, back on the Game Boy. Mine's are the M's. So what else do you have?
All right. So big game in the L's. Lunar the Silver Star.
Yep, I knew it.
Yeah. So I've said this before. But I'll repeat it for all those that are new, and just because it's worth repeating again. This is my favorite game of all time. It is a Sega CD game. It is a RPG. This was a real big point in time for technologies as far as that goes. CD based. So this game had FMV included. FMVs, I should say, included. So that was a change. You actually got the full cinematics. The music is very well done and very appropriate for the game, too. Because there are certain themes that have to do with music throughout the game, and it's very well done. The opening theme that plays leading up to the title screen, that is to this day pretty much the only video game song I put on my music playlist. I'm not like Michael is, where I listen to game music over and over and focus on the songs.
What a nerd, right?
Yeah, this is one of the only games that I actually think about the music on without even thinking about the game with it, so to if that makes sense. It's like, that tune's in my head. The overall, looking back at it, it's not a overly complicated plot, but it's a kind of, I'll call it a classic RPG. You've got the hero who's got to collect these things and bring down the villain. That's a pretty standard trope. But it was fun. If you have played the PlayStation remake called Lunar Silver Star Story Complete, ignore it. That's not the game. The best thing about the PlayStation remake was the hidden Pong game that was on the disc.
Man, this is kind of blowing my mind, because that is the only Lunar I have ever played. Yep. And sadly, much like Final Fantasy V, I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that you shouldn't play that one. You should play the original one.
Yes.
Wow.
I have played the Sega CD version multiple times. I have played the PlayStation version once, and I have played the Game Boy version, or it's Game Boy Advanced was the other Lunar game once. The Sega CD is the best one. In the remakes, the Nintendo or the handheld one makes sense that they change stuff, to a certain extent though, because at this point in technology, at that point in technology, it wasn't a big deal going from Sega CD to DS. The stuff that's on it now, there's no reason to change things. And especially on PlayStation, you don't need to change anything, for space reasons. They completely changed the way certain characters, I think one of the first characters you meet, Nash, I believe his introduction is just completely wrong.
Wow.
It does not line up with the old game at all. Two of my big issues with the transition to PlayStation was they put enemies visible in dungeons. So the only place you have random battles are on the map. And I didn't like that because there are certain spots that are good for grinding were good for grinding, I should say. And it didn't feel as natural as it did on Sega CD. It didn't feel good to be able to see the enemies and whatnot.
Let me ask, does the Sega CD have voice acting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just got to deal with that then. I didn't really care for the voice acting. But that's me.
I would have to go back and listen to see if how much of it was original voice acting and how much was, changed up. The biggest thing from the original was Luna and her singing. That was, I thought, very well done. I didn't really have any huge issues with voice other than that. I think the remake, I was so caught up on all the other changes, I didn't really focus on it.
Right.
But I never had any issues with it.
Well, damn, I have my homework now because again, I actually played it recently. I tried to play it. I want to say earlier this year or later last year, and man, I made it like 2 or 3 hours into it, and it's just, I was like, man, I don't know if this just hasn't aged well, period, or it's too. It just felt simplistic. That's the politest way I can say it. Yeah,
I went through the original Lunar on Sega CD emulator, which I own the game, so doesn't matter if I play on emulator or not. I played that last year, I believe it was, and I still enjoy it. And that's about the time I realized that, looking back on it, playing it now, it is a fairly simple game. But the other thing other big thing I didn't like about the remake was the spells are different. I think they actually reduced the number of spells you get.
Wow.
So that completely eliminated certain strategy that was in the first game, or on the Sega CD version, I should say. Because it's like, all right, when I get to this point of the game, I need to be level 11 because I have to have this spell. It's the ranged fire spell, so I can hit the guy, that's across the water. And they just completely changed up the spell list for characters and stuff. And I think there's something fight related I don't even remember anymore that I didn't like that they changed. Pretty much every single way the original Sega CD is better.
I just want to say that this, two things. One, dude, I totally fucking respect you. I totally see what you're saying, and I am 100% down with that. I am the same way about certain games where, like, okay, I've got the original game, I liked it or I loved it, and the remake comes out, and you would think being like a generation or two later, and being that it is a remake, it would be better, but it sucks. You don't like it. I'm going to have to do my own homework and try to pull some examples up. I wish I could think some off the top of my head, but a random one that comes to mind, there was a Final Fantasy VI remake for the Steam. I think it's on Steam store right now. Yeah. And before I even went to go to the download page, I saw the way that they changed the sprites on the battle screens and the sprites on the screen. I was like, nope, nuh-uh, not doing it. Don't like it at all. It's obviously, it doesn't look better. It looks different.
Yeah.
You know, you could tell where they pumped money into making these sprites look a certain way, and it doesn't work for me. Second thing, this is blowing my mind because again, I've only played one Lunar, and it was Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. And you would think, even back then in the 90s, with this game being that old, being where it was, this is a big deal. This thing had like 4 fucking discs, 27 discs. I don't remember. It had a fucking map. It was a collector's edition. There was a soundtrack with it. There was a fucking Lamborghini that came with it. This thing was a big package, and you would think that if the company put that much time and effort and love, that's the definitive edition, and you're telling me no. Oh,
right,
man.
And apparently there was a PSP remake in 2009 that I didn't even know about. 2010 for North America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I played it. If I did, it was probably like the other remakes and they just ported it over. But one of the things looking at this one on PSP, it says, what things they changed. It's a new view, isometric view, a hand-drawn style for characters and backgrounds, which I don't know what that means. I haven't seen it. A more talkative lead character. Okay, no. You do not change something like that. I believe in the original, I want to say he has like 2 parts where you hear his voice.
And let it be.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
And it's appropriate. Like, one of them is at the ending, I believe. Or it's in one of the cinematics near the beginning, or it might be both, or the 2 moments I'm thinking of.
That's going to be one of our tangents one day, is talking about fucking voice acting in games. God, if you have a fucking silent protagonist, I am in the camp. I have the largest torch in the camp, waving it around. I don't fucking care if you hate me or not. Leave them silent. There are reasons why they are silent. Tonally, it fits that they're silent. And the times where I've given people the option that said, okay, you gave them a voice. Okay, now you have made a voice to the character. Let me try it out, and let's see if it works. You listen, and you go, nope, does not match. Does not fit that character. If they are silent, leave them silent. If they're near silent, leave them near silent. It's okay. I don't have to have somebody giving me dialogue every 5 minutes. I don't.
Yeah.
You too, Lunar.
The game has a bit of comedy in it. I think most of the comedy's at the beginning before things get serious. But I mean, the game involves dragons, and the first one you meet, he has a very hilarious line of dialogue.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a bit of a classic.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's just something where we're going to disagree on. When that part come up, I was like, oh man, come on.
I've actually been debating on doing something like that in my campaign, just having some line like that with something ridiculous. It would be hilarious. It still cracks me up to this day. A lot of my reasoning for it to be, my favorite game of all time has to do with nostalgia. This was my first RPG, other than like Phantasy Star 3, which I never played because I talked about in the past, save issues.
Yeah.
I never had that problem with Lunar. But I just spent hours, even with a walkthrough. I had 2 different walkthroughs, I think Andy had. Playing through the game, still spent hours just playing and playing and playing. Not always progressing, but just enjoying the game as a whole. So it's...
Yeah. This is interesting. I'm glad to hear this. This makes me understand that if I do try to play a Lunar game again, I'll play this one and I'll try to play the Sega CD version. Maybe I'll have a better experience. We'll see.
Yeah. I think anyone that had at least an okay experience with the PlayStation remake should go back and play it. And even if you didn't like the PlayStation version, give it a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too hard to find an emulator and test it out. I went on eBay and bought copies of the first and second game.
Any other L's for you?
Nope.
All right, here we go. Mario Paint. I owned Mario Paint for a good portion of my life. I first played it at a friend's house. Funny that at the same time, there were two specific games that I played at this friend's house: Mortal Kombat 2 and Mario Paint. Odd couple of games to play side by side, but I digress. Mario Paint, 1992. What's awesome about this? Well, it's basically a fucking artwork game for the Super Nintendo. In the year that they released Super Scope, they also released a fucking mouse pad and a mouse for the Super Nintendo. Doesn't seem like a big deal today because they're every fucking where. But when you have a home console that supports a mouse, that was so odd to me, but very cool the way that they utilized it, specifically with Mario Paint. It was basically fucking Windows Paint for the Super Nintendo. With a lot of additions. You had stamps that you could use. There was a music editor in it where you could make, I think it was like minute-long music files using basically stamps as music notes. Very interesting. Very interesting for very basic, but very interesting. Something to come out in 1992. A couple Mega Man games. I'm going to talk about those.
Yep.
Mega Man 5 for the Nintendo. And then Mega Man 3 for the Game Boy. Mega Man 3 for the Game Boy, I will totally admit that I only played through one time, and that was during my 25th anniversary month-long run of Mega Man games. And this is pretty much a running theme for all the Game Boy games. If you think the fucking Nintendo Mega Man games are hard, holy shit. The jump mechanics, the hit detection, the stagger from being hit, and so on and so forth. These Game Boy games are fucking crucial. I think I made it through 1, 2, 3. I think 3 was the last one that I beat. Just from time constraint, I had to go as far as I could in the other Game Boy games. But yeah, unfortunately, I only played through it once. It's difficult. Best I could tell you. Mega Man 5. I bought this from a local gas station as well. I loved it. It's another Mega Man game. What do you want? Remember, cool thing about this one, there was a very interesting boss called Gravity Man, and one of his trick was that he could control gravity. So he would swap the gravity, and you would be walking on the ceiling. I thought that was very cool. When you got his power, you could do the same thing. You control the gravity in the levels. I mean, I wish I could give you just resounding things about. Oh well, I mean, Beat made his first appearance in this game too. So I mean, there is Beat. There are
what is I don't know that one.
So there are 8 hidden letters that you can collect through the first 8 boss areas of Mega Man 5, and they all spell out Mega Man 5, Mega Man V. When you collect all of them, you get an additional item called Beat. And you call Beat down, he floats above your shoulder everywhere you go. As soon as the enemy pops on the screen, he zips over there and one-shots it. Pretty much one-shots everything in the game, with the exception of bosses. And, of course, there are some tougher enemies that he takes about 2 hits. But he basically does the work for you.
That's cool.
He is very crucial in beating some of the Wily stages as well, and definitely crucial in beating a couple of the Wily bosses, specifically Wily himself. But, great music, great upgraded graphics, all that stuff. It was another good Mega Man game. It's really, really hard for me to say bad things about Mega Man games. Really hard for me to pick bad ones. So, and I've also got another franchise starter, another huge franchise starter. Mortal Kombat for the arcade came out this year. First one ever.
Was it only in the arcade that year?
That I don't know. I picked the arcade first because it came out on arcade first, so I just put arcade first. So I don't know if it took the game getting to home consoles before the controversy started, before it became huge, but the controversy was definitely here with this game. This game it's so tame today. Look at, there's so many games I can point you to and compare it to Mortal Kombat. Guys, gals, you don't even know the gory shit that's out there. But when Mortal Kombat came out, it was the fucking talk of the town. This was the, oh my god, they're pushing the boundary. They're going they're going too far. You've got a guy that can light somebody on fire and it shows their skeleton fall.
Mm-hmm.
You got another guy that literally takes somebody's head and rips their head off along with their spinal column. You got a guy that turns into a dragon and bites somebody in half, etc., etc. This game, you hit somebody and blood flies. Oh my God. You'd think that fucking 20 buckets of blood fly out over a high punch. You know, the way people talk about it. But Mortal Kombat came out in 1992, made a humongous statement about violence in video games, and made it made a clear point that, look, we are trying to reach a more mature audience. We're trying to push our envelope. And they did. For better or for worse, they did. They are still striving to this day. Mortal Kombat has had several titles down the road. I think they're on their 10th actual Mortal Kombat installment, but there have been other spin-offs, other games as well. They've tied up with the DC universe recently and had some really good games. But
22.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man.
will totally admit that the first Mortal Kombat arcade game I ever played was Mortal Kombat 2, long before I played Mortal Kombat 1. I remember playing Mortal Kombat 1 on the Super Nintendo specifically, which had which everybody hates that for the Super Nintendo because of the green blood shit, and it didn't bother me. I didn't care. I as a young kid never got hung up on the whole blood thing. Like, none of that really affected me. I didn't care that they took it away, and it didn't blow my mind that it was in that. I don't know, because I had seen rated R movies before, and I just knew what blood was. I don't know. But
yeah, I was the same way.
Yeah. In the world of Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat shows up and says, yeah, we're tailoring to a different audience. So... And that's all my M's. I don't have anything else until R, actually.
I'm R as well. I did have a question. The Ninja Gaiden game. What is this one that was released? It was EU only, apparently.
You know what? I skipped right over that. I didn't even see. And I don't have the page pulled up. I'm sorry. What's the title of it? I might be able to tell
Ninja
you.
Gaiden. That's it.
Let me.
It was on the Sega Master System in Europe. It was PAL. Europe, Australia, etc.
Yeah, and this is the Master System Ninja Gaiden game. I'm not sure. I can definitely tell you I never played it though.
Okay.
Sorry, you put me on a spot there, but I don't have an answer for you.
It's all good.
Never played that one.
That's an answer in and of itself.
Yep, never played it. That's a tried and true end of time cast game of the year statement right there. Anything else for you before R's?
No.
Even my R is a very short mention. It's not nothing huge. Ranma 1/2 Hard Battle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I did, Chris. Yes, I did.
That was my first one in R.
So this was a random game for me out of nowhere. This was when I would go to my grandmother's house. I was fortunate that she had a couple neighbors that had this game in their library. They had like 10 or 15 Super Nintendo games, and this was one of their games. I don't know why. I don't remember. Anime was not even a thing for me at this time in my life. But they had this game, and I was like, yeah, it's a fighting game with some odd-looking characters. I'll play it, sure. I played this game for several hours. Was never that great at it, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Yeah. And I didn't even know that I was playing a game based off a super popular Japanese anime.
Yeah, this I was only going to mention this game because it's based off Ranma 1/2, and that's my favorite anime.
Yeah.
So it was a fighting game, which was okay. Next year, there's another game, Ranma 1/2, that I'll talk about then.
But yeah, that is actually my only R, and again, that's just weird coincidence that I ever even played that game for as long as I did. It just somebody had it, and I was fairly interested in how odd and different it was, and I played it.
Yeah, the other R I had was actually Road Rash 2.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure I played this one. I know Road Rash 1 was one we played a lot. But I think I did actually play 2. And even if not, it's another Road Rash game.
Yeah.
It's a fun little game.
Yeah. See all our thoughts on Road Rash 1.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong, and it's pretty much the same thing. You're on a motorcycle, and you beat the shit out of people to win and run from the cops.
I'm pretty sure I played the RoboCop 3 game. Was that on Sega?
I think it may have been. I think I remember seeing it on Super Nintendo.
Let's see. Yeah, this one was on Sega at one point, so I think that's where I played it.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time, but it was okay for the time, but it's not a game you want to go back and play.
Yeah. All right, audience, I hope you've got another 2 hours because we're about to roll into the S's, and oh shit. Just kidding. It ain't going to be that long.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, we'll talk about SMT, Shin Megami Tensei. Don't worry, folks. I will not be talking about this for long at all because I've never played a single SMT. I only put this on the list to show people that if you're a fan of Persona 5, like we talked about 3 or 4 episodes ago, ad nauseum, this is in that same universe, if I'm not mistaken. It's in the same... Yeah, it's supposed to be in the same universe. And this is where that shit started. 1992, Shin Megami Tensei. It was a multi-plat game, several consoles it came out on. So if you want to know where the SMT series started, here it is, 1992.
Yep.
However, another game I could talk about for a while, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Chris and I did an episode a little while back, top Sega Genesis games, and this was my favorite Sega Genesis game. And it came out in 1982. I love this game. I love what it did. I love the upgrade that it came to be. Definitely nostalgia glasses with this game. Have no problem admitting that because there are several other Sonic games that are better. Oh god, there are several that are worse too. Introducing a second character, Tails. Introducing 2-player co-op, awesome. Introducing the racing thing, which was whatever. Yeah, I've just this for whatever reason. This just has a fucking warm, cozy spot in my heart. And I've always loved this one. And it came out 1992, the second entry into the Sonic franchise. I say that. I don't know about Sega Game Gear games. I haven't checked in those.
Yeah.
But as far as Sega Genesis goes, second entry into it.
Yeah. Before you move on past Sonic, I want to step back up the alphabet real quick to Sewer Shark.
Okay.
Now, I don't have a lot to say about this game because much like Echo, I apparently wasn't smart enough to get very far. I own this game. I'm pretty sure I still have it. And it's the wiki describes it as a rail shooter video game, but I remember there being some sort of point and click aspect to it. And I think that's where I got hung up. It's like, oh, you got to find, it's like Myst, oh, I've got to find this random thing I have to click on for whatever reason, and I'm never going to figure that out. I believe that's what happened with it. Because I don't remember the shooter aspect of it at all. I just remember being stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next for me, this is, again, this is completely out of nowhere. My mother actually asked me about this round about the time she heard me talking. She heard that I had a podcast, and I was talking about old Nintendo games. She actually remembers this game because it was one of the 7-8 games that came with my first Nintendo. Bear with me, folks. I played and owned Stanley, The Search for Dr. Livingston.
Okay.
Exactly. That's about all I can say for it. It's just, okay. So I'm looking at this library of Nintendo games that I got from this fucking pawn shop, and then this is in there, and I'm like, I don't know why. The fuck is this? Like, who picked this for me? Why was this game even made? It's sort of side-scrolly, adventure-ish. You're I don't even remember what the gameplay was like. I want to say you would whip or attack like snakes and shit, like wildlife. The jumping was very off. The exploration, like you had to find clues to get items to move in the world or move past obstacles in the world. Yeah.
I like that on the wiki for this, one of the screenshots, or I should say the screenshot that's on the page, the caption is, Stanley tries to fight a cheetah with his bare hands.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna grill my mom one day and ask her, okay, did you go pick out these games for me, or were they just automatically bundled? Because if she picked them out, I have it in my head that she saw the Dr. Livingston and went, oh, I know what Dr. Livingston is, so I'll get that for him. This was I actually played this quite a lot when I was a kid, again, because it was one of the early games that I ever owned. And I was like, this game is not good. This game is so whatever. Why the fuck would this ever be a game? Yeah. So that's the shout out that you get from me, Stanley. I owned you. You were a thing. You've been long gone from my life. Next up is not one game, but 3 games, all in the arcade, and all bringing the beginning of the fucking Street Fighter powerhouse that it is. 1992, you got Street Fighter II The World Warrior, Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting, Street Fighter II Championship Edition. All of these came out in this year, all for the arcade, all North American release. Holy shit. Now, I'm sure, audience, you're wondering, okay, so Michael, did you do your homework, and can you lay out the differences? Fuck no, I can't. No, I didn't. I could have. I think I remember one of them. It might have been Championship Edition. The big thing about that one was that all 4 of the bosses, Vega, Balrog, Zangief, and Bison, were all playable. I think that was the first game that let you do that. They had their own words too, like they were the World Warrior, the champions or something, World Champions something. In any event, I don't know the differences in all 3 of these. I don't know why there were 3 different Street Fighter II cabinets brought out in the same year. The reason why I put this here is because 1, 3 Street Fighter II games were released in one year, and 2nd, this was just more fuel for the Street Fighter powerhouse. This is just Street Fighter just showing you that they are here and they are fucking dominating.
I wonder how much of it was a reaction to Mortal Kombat 2. Or Mortal Kombat, sorry, not 2.
Yeah. That's how we stamp out other games. We just release more of our own.
Yeah. So Turbo was a faster playing speed.
Hence the name.
And new moves. Yeah, and some character balance changes.
Mm-hmm.
Champion Edition was the one where the Grandmasters were playable. The final 4.
Grandmasters, there you go.
Yeah. And I think the World Warrior was just...
That's just it.
That's just it. That's just Street Fighter 2, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, there you go. There's Street Fighter 2 showing up and just slamming away. Super Adventure Island. This was Hudson Adventure Island making its debut on the Super Nintendo. Again, most of the same gameplay that you know from the NES. Same here, with the exception that this game doesn't have the dinosaurs anymore. You don't get to ride that. You do get to ride skateboards, and I forget what else. There's a couple other things you get to ride, but it's basically the first Adventure Island, but with a 16-bit flair. It's got the upgraded music, upgraded graphics, same bosses, and blah, blah, blah. This is kind of a running theme that, I'm sorry, you'll kind of hear a lot from me when it comes to these Sega Genesis upgrades, specifically the Super Nintendo upgrades. It's the same game, but you have a generational leap in everything. Generational leap in graphics and music and sprite design and all that. So,
Streets of Rage 2. We've talked a little bit about Streets of Rage before, and I still... after going back and playing, say 3 was the best one of them. But this was Streets of Rage 2, which was not terrible. It had a few mechanics changes that were much needed. And it was definitely a step up from the first game. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up.
Yep.
For those that aren't aware.
Also, for those that aren't aware, that have never even heard of this before, franchises kicked off this year big time. Super Mario Kart came out this year, 1992. Mm-hmm. You only have to look at every Nintendo console. You got a Mario Kart or 2 or 7. I mean, they've been around and they have stuck around. Now, some interesting things about the Mario Kart that came out this year, 1992, is that there were some changes over the years that you don't see anymore. I want to say that maybe some other titles came along and brought some of these back, but I don't know. I don't know facts. We'll do a Mario Kart episode. Who knows? One of the big ones was that, so when you're playing Super Mario Kart, there are coins scattered all throughout the boards as you're racing. The coins are not just there for points. They're not there for scores, not just there for a score. The more coins you collect, the faster you go. Mm-hmm. So collecting coins is intrinsically tied to your racing speed in that game. And that's awesome. I don't really see that in Mario Kart these days.
Latest one has it, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad they brought something like that back. It's something they missed for a long time. You kind of sort of get Mario Kart from this game, but again, kind of like Kirby, this game has evolved, and it's almost not even the same as it used to be. You do have running across item blocks and using multiple types of items. That's still there, but I don't. Now this is biased, completely biased, because I didn't really play Mario Kart with friends. I didn't have that family or friend dynamic to Mario Kart. Again, the 92 version. But I don't remember Mario Kart, the 92 version, being the fucking almost Monopoly-esque rage-inducing game that Mario Karts have become. They are the I'm in last place, 40 seconds later I'm in first place. They're the I am in first place. I just got ass raped. I'm in 7th place now. Holy fuck. They're notorious for that, and I never got that playing the NES, the SNES Super Mario Kart. But this is where it started. This huge, super popular Nintendo franchise started right here in 1992 with Super Mario Kart. Another Super Mario game came out this year. This also has a place in my heart because it was one of the first Game Boy games I ever owned. Super Mario Land 2, 6 Golden Coins. This is definitely a gem of a Game Boy game. I think as far as Game Boy games goes, it has stood the test of time. Most Mario games are known for doing that. They're almost all timeless. Almost. Remember getting the power up in this game was pretty cool. You can get a carrot that gave you rabbit wings that let you float. That was a cool dynamic. You had a level. You had I think it was a world actually, where you were inside a toy Lego version of Mario. It had interesting boss designs, interesting level designs. I remember the music. There are several Game Boy Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins music themes. I can hum them right now because I remember them. They were awesome. I also had this when I had the Handy Boy thing, so having that that fucking stereo speaker system was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I just remember this game being very good. And again, if you go from Super Mario Land 1 to this one, 2 totally different games. The character design completely different. The theme and tone of the game is different. The level layout, the way you progress, is very different. So I've always loved this game. It's always had a place in my heart. And again, I think to this day you could play this Game Boy game if you take it for the Game Boy game. It holds up. It's a Mario game and it's very good.
I don't think I've ever played it.
Yeah, it's worth it.
It looks like it's on the 3DS Virtual Console, so maybe I'll try it one day.
And I think that's all the S's.
Yep.
We're running to the end. We're in the T's now. What T's you got, Chris?
So there are actually 4 games that came out around this, but I only know about one of them. The games are Tiny Toon Adventures.
Oh, yes.
There's 4 of them that were released this year, but the one I played and care about is Tiny Toon Adventures Babs's Big Break.
Okay.
This is a Game Boy game, which it's a fun little game, except for the fact that it's incredibly difficult.
Oh, wow.
Like, oh my God, I don't know how far, I can't remember how far I got in the game, but I never beat it, that's for sure. To be fair, I didn't beat most Game Boy games I had. I was a child playing them, and I typically didn't care all that much about beating them anyway, but
yeah.
I got to certain points where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, or in this case, it's a platforming game, and I'm trying to recall, there's something like the enemies will throw like pineapples, or one of the player characters can throw pineapples too, or something like that. But the enemies can throw things, and they bounce around the level. So you're trying to navigate a level while avoiding these bouncing things. And man, just as a child, I could not navigate that very well. What I remember of it, it was fun. Like I said, it was just very hard.
Yeah. And again, I don't think anybody should hold that against you. I don't hold it against anybody, for damn sure. Game Boy games are known for being difficult. I don't know if it's because the limitations made it that way, because, I mean, NES games in general were difficult. They were designed to be that way. And, I mean, even that's a whole different conversation of why the fuck did the coin guzzling mentality come to the console? There are no coins. It's stupid.
All right. But I just read something that I have to mention. So on the wiki, it says that the Japanese version of the game differs in that it offers a password feature and unlimited continues. The North American version, you had 2 continues.
You were born in the wrong country, Chris.
Apparently. Jerks.
But yeah, it's completely understandable, man. Again, for whatever reason, a lot of Game Boy games were just again, like I brought up with Mega Man. Mega Man games were difficult. A lot of them had difficulty spikes. I'll give you that. The Game Boy games, I don't know what, like, they were just they were nightmare fuel. So, whatever, Game Boy games, we've grown past you. I've got a Tiny Toons one. I have another game, but I'll go ahead and talk about Tiny Toons as well. Tiny Toon Adventures Buster Busts Loose. I unfortunately have only played through the second level of this game, and that was probably back in like 2006 or 7. I played this way late in my life. I remember seeing ads for this all the time in like GamePro and EGM. I think GamePro did a player's guide version of the game. It was at a Nintendo Power, one of the two. But I remember the gimmick of this game being that the level design was very speedy as such. So he would have like a dash meter, and you could go across the screen like super fast. It would let you climb up walls and go around, and you were trying to manage your speed level. So I thought it was pretty cool. I really need to go back and give that its just due. It's got great graphics. I remember that. Just remember the ad for this game and being like, I need to play that game, but I just never had it as a kid. A game that I also didn't have, but borrowed from a friend, and if not, I could play in the arcade, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time.
Yep.
Fun 4-player fucking co-op game right here. The idea of playing your favorite fucking turtles in a side-scrolling beat-em-up fashion, multiple foot soldiers coming on the screen, you gotta kick ass, pick up pizza for health. You could fall down fucking manholes and have fun little animations. You could step on a rock or a fucking something, and he'd go, my toe, my toe. Remember throwing enemies like at the screen with that Mode 7 shit? That was pretty cool. The fact that they took so many assets from the actual Turtles cartoon and brought them into that game and paid them just due and paid them respects, like it. Very good arcade beat 'em up game. Definitely worth a mention. There's another one of those coming in just a minute as well. I don't have anything else until the W's, though. What about you?
Don't think so. Nope.
All right. W, I just want to mention another franchise starter, arguably a smaller one. I'll give you that. But this is where Wave Race started. The first Wave Race game, again, I didn't know this until it should have given it away, the fact that it had a 64 title on it. But the first Wave Race game I ever heard of was Wave Race 64.
Right.
And usually when you saw blank, 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 whatever, 64, that meant that this is something that's already there, and we're just it's got a 64 flavor. I thought Wave Race 64 was the first Wave Race. No, this shit started on the Game Boy in 1992. Now, arguably, and understandably, sorry, it's a better way to say it, this franchise is not huge. It's definitely had some sequels over the years, but 1992, you have Wave Race for the Game Boy. You didn't see the next game until the Nintendo 64 with Wave Race 64. So I just figured I'd point it out. It was interesting to me to find out that this shit started on the Game Boy. I thought, well, okay, well then maybe there's a Wave Race and Super Nintendo game I've never heard of. Nope, Game Boy game.
Yeah, and there was one after that on the GameCube.
Yep.
And apparently there might be one on the Switch.
Yeah, they're supposedly bringing it back. And again, small franchise, but kind of I equate it to kind of like Pilot Wings. Like, you know that this comes from Nintendo, but it's just not a huge one, you know?
Yeah.
Another great arcade game came out this year. Another great co-op, side-scrolling, beat-em-up arcade game. This one supported 6 characters. X-Men. That's all it was titled. There's no subtitles, no exclamation points, no anything. It's just X-Men. And it's the arcade game, and you could pick from... was it 6 players, or was it there were 6 X-Men you could pick from? I think there was just 6. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Emails.
I actually think I did play this.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to remember. I know I've played a couple different X-Men games in the past, and I think this one in the arcade I played.
Welcome to Die, I think was a well-known Magneto quote. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you pick some of your X-Men characters, and it's side-scrolling, and it's beat 'em up, and it's co-op, and it's fun. It came out in 1992. I've only got one game left, Chris. I don't know if you have any more.
No, I don't.
Okay. Why are you laughing? I don't know why you're laughing, man. Cool.
It's because it's like, all right, all these games in the S's, and then it's like, nothing.
Yep. So the last game, this is a very unfortunate game that I had played, and yes, I will admit I played for several hours. I made it, I don't know what level number it was, but I made it to the musical instrument theme level. Play this game because this was, again, when I'm borrowing every game somebody had, this was one of the games he had. I had played Zool for the Super Nintendo. Side-scrolling, platforming. This is very akin to Bubsy style, like, where the fuck did this come from? Who's heard of this? What is this? I mean, it is what it is. I played it because it was the bottom of the barrel, and I did play it for a while. Again, I didn't actually know how bad it was, and I kind of didn't care. I'm telling you, people just don't understand. I was such a fucking video game junkie in these years of my life. It could be a bad game, but I would play it because either one, I didn't have anything else to play, or two, I didn't care. I just wanted to play video games. I'm looking at you, Stanley, the search for Dr. fucking Livingston. Jesus.
You know,
I played these. What?
I thought you were actually going to say Yoshi's Cookie.
You know, I did play a Yoshi's Cookie But see, I think the one that I remember was just Yoshi. I don't think I played Yoshi's Cookie. I think I only played Yoshi. I think I actually brought that up on one of our previous.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you talking about a game similar before.
Yeah. But I don't think I ever actually played Yoshi.
Okay.
But yeah, there you go, Zool. You get a shout out too, just because I did dump hours into you and I did play you for a while. I mean, it's pretty nondescript platforming, and there's nothing great about it. It's not horrible either. It's just, oh man, I could have been doing so much better.
Yeah. You know, one that might be worth just throwing out there at least, Wolfenstein 3D.
Yeah.
That was. Go ahead.
I think at this point, didn't we already mention a Wolfenstein before?
Yeah, I think so, but this was the 3D one.
Yeah, for when you want to put your 3D glasses on. Yeah. That was bad.
Yeah.
But there you go, folks. That's our year in review for 1992. Some fucking definite fucking franchise starters in here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, man, I'm looking at like 15, 20-ish games on this list, and that still took us a while. Man, we're gonna have so much to talk about when these years hit us in the face.
And this will be I think this will be the first of the interesting, or maybe not, game of the years too.
Yeah, it will. But I guess that's gonna do it for this episode of the End of Time podcast. What games of 1992 did you play? What ones did you like? What things did you want to talk about or bring up that we didn't mention for the games that we did bring up? What things do we miss? There may have been games in there we never even heard of. Like I said, Kickmaster, random out of nowhere fucking game, but hey, when I played it, I loved it. Maybe you have some hidden gems like that. Let us know. What are your thoughts on D&D stuff or the MCU? Try to keep your Infinity War spoilers to a minimum if you can. Even this late in the game, as of this recording in pretty much the middle of May, 2018. What games are you working on? What games are you playing? What things are you doing? What is it like in your video game life? We'd love to hear feedback. We'd love to hear your discussions about anything you want to talk about, anything we talked about in this episode, another episode, a burning question you have, a rant, a rave, whatever. Let us know. You can find us on Facebook. All you got to do is search for In the Timecast on Facebook. That may be how you found this episode right here. You can send us an email at endoftimecast@gmail.com. That's endoftimecast@gmail.com. No funny spelling or numbers in there. Just spell it as you heard it. Take you right to our inbox. We still have a Twitter page. We also update. You can tweet at us. However you want to send us some personal feedback. We love to hear from you. And we have kind of looking forward to the next episode. We got a pretty good tangent topic going on next episode. Yep. I'm going to try my best to do some more homework. I got to say, you're probably the better of us two right now because you've been involved in this shit a lot these past couple weeks.
Yeah,
but I will do my best to give my minimal input on
right.
the next interesting topic. And yeah, I guess that'll do it for the night. Until next time, I'm Michael.
I'm Chris.
Good night, everybody.